This is the MLW Radio Network.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mind of the Meanie, your weekly peek into the world according to former WWE superstar and ECW original, the Blue Meanie. We'll cover wrestling, music, movies, sports, and lots of useless knowledge, all contained in the Mind of the Meanie. I am your tour guide, Josh Shernoff, and he is the Blue Meanie. Meanie, what's on your mind?
Happy 50th anniversary, my friend.
Happy 50th, man. We've been married a long time. It is our 50th episode, Meanie, and it is our debut episode right here on FITE. This is exciting. I even dressed up for it. Do not expect this again until episode 100, but I am wearing my Mind of the Meanie tie because you can actually see us right now. And, of course, you can see us immediately right now live if you're on Patreon. So shout out to all our Patreon Pod Squad members who are joining us live. We're going to interact with you throughout the show. If this is the first time you have ever watched or listened to Mind of the Meanie, it might be a good show. It's 50 episodes. I was thinking we'd phone it in for this one, Meanie.
Yeah, I feel totally underdressed. I should have got like a tuxedo half t-shirt or something like that, you know?
You know, the thing is,
be like the movie Step Brothers where they wear the tuxedo to the job interview to be janitors. And he just lets out a big fart. He's like,
I have a Mind of the Meanie tie, and what better place to wear it than where I'm not promoting it because people are already watching. So maybe I should start wearing this on other shows.
Oh, man. Well, hey, since you put it that way. Nah, man, this is exciting. Thank you to FITE for having us on board. Most importantly, thank you to our Pod Squad, our community of Mind of the Meanie fans who have stuck with us through this apocalypse and watched us on this journey upwards. You know, I mean, if it wasn't for fans, then it'd just be me and you talking, and we could just do that over the phone.
Yep.
But thankfully to the Pod Squad, they've helped us maintain a support system that has allowed us to adventure outwards, you know, and FITE came to us and said, hey, we'd love to have Mind of the Meanie on FITE. And I'm way excited to do this. You know, in a lot of ways, you know, I was a big fan, well, still a fan, but fan of the Howard Stern show, where in the morning you could listen to his radio show, and then clips from the show would be on, like, not Channel 9, but on his E show. He would have, you know, certain things you hear on the radio and TV. So it's along those lines where, you know, you can listen to the podcast, and then if something happens that totally catches us off guard, which is quite often, then you can tune in at 6 p.m. like you are right now on FITE TV and see what all the commotion was about.
Yeah, there are so many times that I have said, oh, you have to see what Meanie did. Join us on patreon.com/Mind of the Meanie. And if you do join us on patreon.com/Mind of the Meanie, you get so many exciting things like being able to watch this live. But now you can go to FITE later on in the evening because this is going to air at 6 p.m. on Monday, every week on FITE. Our podcast drops at 6 a.m. Monday mornings every single week, of course. But now you're going to be able to go in and you're going to say, wow, did Meanie just really fart into the microphone? Did he really stand up and do that? Or are they just saying that because it's like a radio show? You know, it's a little theater of the mind. Now you're going to be able to find out for yourself that no, the Blue Meanie legitimately stands up, does it straight into his microphone, then sits back down, sometimes to be offended by his own scent that he has left right here at the microphone.
So basically, I'm like a dog. I do things, and I wonder what the fuck this... Oh, what's that smell? Ugh, you know?
Then he ends up chasing his tail.
Dude, I took your advice this morning. I'm like, Well, you know, my best farts are like as soon as I'm waking up, go walk down the hallway to take the morning piss. So you're like, yeah, just run in there, turn on your roadcaster and fart into the mic.
Did you really?
Before you, yeah. So breaking news. I recorded. To be fair, it's like half one because I let half one out in bed before I got up. But world exclusive, just like an MTV music video back in the day. The new Blue Meanie farts into his Roadcaster Pro first thing in the morning. And 3, 2, 1. Of course, I edit for quickness. I edited out my footsteps. You hear the, you know.
Oh my God.
I'm tight, baby.
Well, thank you for joining us here on FITE. Now, this is the fun that we have here. Hey, there's so much going on in the wrestling world all the time. The good, the bad, the ugly, the smelly. There's so much stuff happening. But one thing that I wanted to get your opinion on, Meanie, just to kick things off here, is the banning of the thigh slap. Have you heard about this?
No.
Rumor is, and this is according to...
Is this like kayfabe news or anything like that?
No, this is kind of, because this is according to a friend of a show, Dave Meltzer, who claimed on the Wrestling Observer thing that they're now fining people. WWE is fining NXT people or maybe other wrestlers, I don't know, for slapping their thigh when delivering a kick or any move for that matter. That they're now being fined. That they're being told to stop doing that. Something that's been happening for a very long time. Now, I personally think it has been overkill and it has not been hidden. Yeah. Back in the day, it used to be hidden very nicely. Yeah. Now it's just like they're like just boom, just slapping the thigh, and it just takes everything away from it. But what do you think of that?
There's a long thought process that since you mentioned that, like the wheels are spinning.
That's what we do here, Mind of the Meanie.
What's so funny is like back in the day, somebody would go, kayfabe's dead. Mm-hmm. And then the person who says kayfabe's dead would go on to describe something which kills kayfabe, you know? Back in my day, we protected the business. Look at these guys just slapping their leg when they throw a kick. I was like, well, you just exposed the business yourself by just pointing that out that somebody who may not have noticed.
Right.
And like you said, back in the day, they hid it. And I think the preponderance of people constantly saying, well, they slap their legs when they throw a kick and all this stuff made it more acceptable for people to just, all right, I'm just going to slap my leg. You know, before people used to hide it and then somebody pointed out that they were doing it. And I think somebody went, well, since they know we're doing it anyway, I'm just going to just...
And so that's the thing, like
out in public.
Randy Orton a few months back had a little back and forth with like Tommaso Ciampa and some other people, and he's always poking fun at people for leg slappers. But you look at that and you go, is that what wrestling's become now? Nobody pretends that it's totally legit. Now, what used to be the people swearing up and down that it was real and defending it with their lives versus the people who were breaking kayfabe and letting you in behind the scenes. Now, the top of the mountain is the people being like, well, I do it fake better than you. Like, like when I do it, it looks real. But I'm telling everyone on the internet right now, no, it's not. But I'm so good because I make it look real. And it's like, well, then what's the point? Yeah. Why don't you slap your leg too? Because you just told everybody that, I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of like and the other thing I hate is like when two people are having a conversation, like there's not a camera right there recording them, and then it's like, well, how come his opponent doesn't watch the TV show and find out what he had,
And AEW has done a lot of those backstage vignette things, but they have been creative enough to always. Maybe it's one of them grabs the cameraman and pulls him in. Maybe there's another where they're just talking, the camera comes up on them and they acknowledge that the camera's there. Sometimes the person will be having a standard interview with like Alex Marvez or someone is interviewing them backstage, and they will be interrupted where it's like, okay, I'm being interrupted because it's the time. And they'll even say things like, dude, I'm doing an interview here. Like, what are you doing? And I like that because there's a certain storytelling in wrestling now that was really created by Eric Bischoff for Nitro. And it's the same format that they use to this day. WWF stole it from Nitro back in the day, and this is what they do still to this very day, but they do it in such a sterile way that it's just so formulaic that it's not even remotely interesting. So at least AEW is trying to make it a different way, but WWE is just... It's that same old hidden mystery camera. And it's just, how am I supposed to believe anything that happens in the ring if you're showing me things in the back that are unbelievable? That these things didn't, it didn't really happen because they're all in each other's face. And then they say their last line and they just stare at each other until the camera fades out. And my question has always been, well, what happened after that camera faded out? Did they just walk away or did they keep talking?
Right.
It's too formulaic.
It's one thing if you're doing it with two, people who are like a tag team, like me and you are a tag team and we're talking and we say something and then we have that aha moment and then the camera goes black. But it's two people who are supposed to be mortal enemies going, to have this brawl and they're backstage and they're in each other's face and the camera just pans out and, or fades to black. And like you said, what happened? Did they just go, okay, see you later? All right, bye.
There's a purpose to having those backstage interviewers, and not just because I want to make sure that there's a job for me, but there's a purpose to have those people there. It's to get that camera backstage for a reason. And AEW has been creative enough, as have other promotions, been creative enough to say, okay, let's use this backstage interviewer to set the stage to make sense as to why our camera is backstage, but I don't know. It's something that you and I are not going to fix here on the Mind of the Meanie, but it's something to talk about.
Well, we could talk about it. I've had like an issue with how Raw's been doing TV since forever. It's the same formula. Opening promo, somebody comes out, confronts them, and during the course of the night, it leads to a match at the end of the night. And that formula is basically just like, back in the day, if you had a show and you didn't for back in the day, if you had it like you were running a spot show and you didn't have TV and you wanted to do an angle for the night, you come out, do your, opening angle, then somebody runs in on somebody else's match, somebody runs in, okay, then you're in a tag team match at the end of the night. That's like basic spot show, indie show formula for this. Like people are running one-off shows without no storylines throughout the weeks or months. You just do a one-night storyline. Well, WWE does that pretty much every week on Raw, where come out, same opening promo, hit the music, here comes somebody, and then it leads to some kind of match at the end of the night. Yeah. And, it's just, Yeah, and it makes it hard to watch when you know what's coming.
I would like to see WWE go more in the way, and AEW and everything go more in the way of UFC, in the sense, and they've done this at times, and when they've done it, it has been so good. And AEW does it a decent amount. Their video packages are phenomenal, but everybody knows WWE can make the greatest video packages of anybody. So I would love to see, we can have backstage interviews, and we can have, if you want promos, they should be these, either the guy got his own camera and is sitting there talking to you and, like they do with AEW with a lot of like the Darby Allin stuff. You know, nowadays kids on their phone can make incredible video packages. It is believable that Darby Allin created these own little video vignettes for himself and sent them in. And you have Jim Ross going, this was sent in to us from Darby Allin. Like, that works. That really works. What doesn't work is what you're talking about. I'm just walking down the hallway and I'm going to walk into someone's locker room, and the person's not going to be like, dude, why are you bringing a cameraman in here? What are you doing?
Yeah. Hey, man.
It's my locker room. Let's not. Yeah.
I'm hanging some trouser over here. What are you doing, man? Get out of here. I'm naked. They should walk in when somebody's like, and pulls up their pants like, geez, what are you doing?
Yeah. I just also, the starting the show with the 15-minute monologue is, I always, this is my issue with WWE.
Yes.
Just strictly talking WWE, because we can go on everybody else, but they're the biggest, so we'll talk about them. There's no realism. There's no sense of urgency. There's no, everything seems so planned out. Like, a guy's going to come out and cut his promo, then he'll be interrupted by, like, a Baron Corbin or some crap. And, it's so formulaic that you're not going to start, every once in a while you'll start off and it's like, we're starting off right with the action. And it's like, okay, that's exciting, but that's what it should be. I remember Raw back in 93 where it would start off and there you have Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan and the Macho Man. They're all at ringside and it's like, we've got a great show for you, blah, 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 blah. And then we get to, and let's go to Howard Finkel. And it was like, that made sense.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And if someone was going to come out for a promo, you had Vince McMahon, or later years, you had Michael Cole, or you had Jim Ross, or someone was in the ring. All right, now I'm going to bring out so-and-so to talk. And it worked more. And I get that you could get away with things like Steve Austin could come in and basically just, take over the show and cut and grab the microphone and come out. And no one could stop him. But even when someone's music would hit, and I'd be like, right. Well, what's going on in that? Like, how do they get their music to hit for them to do it? I wanted to see more backstage things, which they've done sometimes, of somebody, I want to see them backstage grabbing Bruce Pritchard by the collar and saying, hit my music, play my music. Yeah. And then him just going to the truck, play the music. And then they come out to make it more realistic. And now they show that backstage area all the time. The little gorilla position that they've built, and you see but then you turn on the network and it's just, you see everybody coming back and hugging afterwards and people getting ready to go out for their next match. And it's like both people who are wrestling each other are standing there. It just doesn't, it's so, I don't know. I don't know, Meanie.
Well, I don't mind that in the way of documentaries.
I don't mind that either, but
yeah.
I don't know. They have to figure out who they want to be.
I miss those old Raws where it would be an hour, and it was just like a souped-up version of an old-school Saturday morning show. Yeah. Where they had that formula, hey, here's the announcers, here's a match. And then, they talk about certain things during the course of the match, storyline and all that stuff, and then before you know it, the show was over, and they left you wanting more. Now it's just 3 hours.
My brother Fred, who, a lot long-time listeners know as Fredward. Fred has always said that every time they announce a new show, be it AEW or WWE, and it's we're going to do it on Monday night, on Tuesday night, on Wednesday night. He's always where's the Saturday morning show for the kids? Where, right. And it's such a valid point. And that's why I always felt with WWE when they do their brand split, they missed the boat from day one on the brand split. They've continued to just miss the mark, because if you want to have multiple brands, that's great. Have a show that's Saturday morning that's geared towards kids. That's actually PG. Yeah. Not the BS PG that they pretend, that they put out there that I would never have my kids watch. So, why don't you have that? Or it's a kid's show and you build the characters that you look at and say, okay, this is perfect example, the Blue Meanie. If you're building a show and we're going to be like, this is a pure wrestling show, this is a catch-as-catch-can wrestling show, then the character, I'm not saying the guy himself, but the character of the Blue Meanie might not fit that as well. But the character of the Blue Meanie might be perfect for a children's show, for old school 80s style wrestling or early 90s. Well, now you give a job to a Blue Meanie and you make a star out of him because he's on that one show where he realistically could be in contention for the world title, because that's what that show is. It's more fun and cartoony in that regard. And I don't mean that, obviously, I don't mean that in any insulting way, but they're
I would gladly take that spot.
They're different characters. They're different styles. And if you want to take your like Bobby Lashley, for instance, I'm not going to put him on like the children's one. You could, because he looks like a cartoon character with those muscles, but he's somebody that, okay, we'll have him and a Daniel Bryan and all these people on this, like, more wrestling style thing, or we can have like, your Roman Reigns or whatever. I just think more thought needs to go into it. If that makes any sense.
It reminds me of, like, back in the day, the reason why I got hired at WWE is they needed more talent. Mm-hmm. They're expanding their programming, and, they had Monday Night Raw at the time, and they were going to have a Sunday Night Heat, and they needed more talent. So Vince Russo, when he, hired me, he was like, yeah, we just need more talent for these shows. And then they start doing, like, Velocity and, Shotgun and all this stuff. They start hiring more and more talent. So, shout out to Fredward. Yeah, that's a great idea. They totally missed the ball on the Saturday morning show. All the promotions, should have at least a Saturday morning show, because, when's the most opportune time to watch a show?
Yeah.
On Monday, you're going to watch, Raw, because it's almost like, habit, but, Saturday morning, most people, are off on Saturday mornings. They get up,
especially kids,
kick back and watch some wrestling,
Yeah, and you can watch it with your kids. That's the thing too.
Well, that was it. When I was a kid, I bonded with my grandparents over wrestling. I've told the story about how to watch old WWF or WWF. I forget when it was switched over to the WWF. But
I think when you were a kid, it was like Capital Wrestling.
You son of a bitch. Me and my pop would sit there and watch wrestling together. And then when Rogers Corner came on, my grandfather was like, oh, yeah, buddy, yeah, I know him. I was like, yeah, you don't know him. And then later on, it turns out he did know him when we went to the AWA TV tapings in Atlantic City, and I walked up right up to Buddy Rogers. Hey, do you know Jim Reardon? Yeah. And I was like, he's right over there. And they started talking like they hadn't missed a beat. I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy.
Cool. How did they know each other?
Yeah. Well, my grandfather used to work in Camden, New Jersey. We're from Philly, but Pop worked in Camden, and Buddy Rogers, real name Herman Dutch Rhodes, used to be a Camden police officer, but he moonlighted as a bouncer at a bar.
Oh wow!
So he was like he worked at this bar my pop went to. So my pop knew him, and then eventually, Herman Dutch Rhodes just became Buddy Rogers, and it was on TV.
Wow!
So then like years later, I'm a kid. I'm like 9 years old, and we're watching WWF morning TV, and before Piper's Pit, there's Rogers Corner, and my pop walks into the room from the kitchen. Yeah, and tells me, and then besides that story, my grandma would always tell me the old school stories where she used to go to wrestling, and back in the 50s, 60s, whatever, there's always the legend of a Hat Pin Mary. Fans would have like nicknames. There was a Hat Pin Mary, this old lady who would take the hat pin out of her head and stick the heels in the ass with her or their hat pin. Whether it was urban legend or not, but my grandma swears she saw Hat Pin Mary stick all the heels in the ass with their hat pin.
Wow, that's amazing.
The stunt granny.
Hey, so we're talking about kids, and it seems like such an amazing transition to our action figures by Cella Toys.
Yeah.
So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like all of you to check out this exclusive look. And by exclusive, it's a video you may have seen a number of times. But this great look at our action figures by Cella Toys. From the hit podcast Mind of the Meanie comes the brand new Mind of the Meanie action figures by Cella Toys. A 2-pack featuring former WWE superstar and ECW original, the Blue Meanie, and his Mind of the Meanie co-host Josh Shernoff with removable microphone. These figures feature 3 points of articulation and incredible likenesses. These retro-style figures can be purchased outside the U.S. at cellatoys.net and inside the U.S. at instagram.com/jbtoys1. With only 1,000 made, this collectible 2-pack won't be around for long, so pre-order now. The Mind of the Meanie action figures by Cella Toys. Order now. Well, Meanie, I could not be more excited about these figures. I'm definitely more excited than you because I actually have them right here.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I've got the prototypes. I can't wait for the real thing, but they are so good.
Yeah. Dude, shout out to Cella Toys, man. They reached out to us about doing the Mind of the Meanie line of figures. I could not be more excited. I've seen what they've done with Nick Aldis. I see what they're doing with other lines of figures that are coming out. And the fact that we're the first and possibly only 2-pack in the line. No, not 2-pack, but 2-pack. In a line of action figures in there is awesome. This is officially my second action figure. And I'm, from somebody who went from having no action figures to now going on my second and hopefully more. Little teaser.
Some more things being worked on.
Yeah, some stuff in the pipeline like this.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man. Cella Toys is doing an amazing job, and I am so excited.
Yeah,
and you taunt me because I haven't been able to, see the figures or hold them or.
But one thing you have been able to do is
you're very cruel.
So we are selling now over at mindofthemeanie.bigcartel.com. You can get there by going to mindofthemeanie.com and clicking on the link. We are selling these figures ourselves. If you're outside the U.S., go to cellatoys.net. If you're inside, you can go to jbtoys1 on Instagram, or you can go directly now, mindofthemeanie.com. We'll take you to mindofthemeanie.bigcartel.com, where we are selling these. The cool thing about that is we are selling them as is or signed. So you can buy signed versions of these. We'll sign the package for you. And what we're also selling, now you're getting these for free if you pre-ordered before November 15th and sent us your information, you will be getting these for free. They'll actually be going out this week. But we have got signed concept art by myself and the Blue Meanie that you can purchase over at mindofthemeanie.com as well. Go to mindofthemeanie.bigcartel.com. We are super excited about these, and this is episode 50. In 50 episodes, Meanie, the fact that we've been able to get action figures is crazy.
It's astounding, really. And that says a lot because making action figures is a huge investment.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't be doing this if they thought they were going to sell no figures. Mm-hmm. So that is just really cool that they have enough belief in us that they can do a line of figures on this show and sell. They're limited. They're limited to 1,000 pieces, but they're confident that they can sell those, and that's flattering to me.
Yeah.
As somebody who we started this podcast 50 episodes ago, and
the fact that we've pre-sold
in an apocalypse.
In an apocalypse, we did this. We've pre-sold more than 50% of the total of what there's going to be in pre-sales. Yeah. The figures aren't even out yet. They should be out very soon, though. But they're not even out yet, and we've already sold over 50%. I think our goal was like 20% pre-sale. So thank you, everybody. Who I don't know who I'm. I guess I'm pitching these to the remaining 50%. But Yeah, this is it's so exciting. And yeah, we did this. Let's take a second, Meanie, if we may.
Yes.
If I may bring the everybody to your left is Blue Meanie's memory of when we first started this show. You know, we might have people for the first time tuning in, checking this out. We don't need to give a full history lesson, but a little bit about, 50 episodes ago, we started this, and we started this show early because our goal was to go into the podcast studio at Montgomery County Community College, and every week we were going to put out an hour-long podcast. You and I would drive to this community college every week. Right. This sounds terrible now that I'm saying it, but that is a show that would have lasted 4 weeks, maybe. It just, we wanted,
knowing that drive route.
We wanted the quality of a podcast studio, and thankfully we ended up with the great people over at Rode, hooking us up. We have our Rode microphones here. We have our Rodecaster Pro. Thankfully we now have this high quality equipment. When we started, we didn't. We had the microphone, which coincidentally is a Rode microphone, but I had the Rode Reporter microphone that I used at all the events that I would do. I had that. I had these headphones, which originally were purchased for Calvin Tan to wear when we were at the live events for him to hear the audio when I was recording things. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll use them for a podcast. And Meanie had, what did you have? Like a can with a string or something? I don't know what
Pretty much. It was just like a video gaming headset.
Yeah.
And I had a good, I was using that. And then I realized, I wanted to do a podcast ages ago. And I went out and bought all this equipment. I had a Zoom mic. I realized that this Zoom microphone with a regular old Shure microphone. And then the sound quality got a lot better after that.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, Rode was so kind enough to, reach out. And we have this great Rode equipment that we record on every week. Yeah. We record on both our ends, and I send you my files. You splice them together, and we sound like we're in the same room.
Yeah. It's really been awesome. To be able to watch the progression as things have grown, and we haven't done it alone, like you mentioned, Rode, but also our Pod Squad, all of you who have been listening from day one, Patreon or not, but of course we got to give a shout out to our Patreon members who have, really funded this show in a lot of ways. We really, really, truly appreciate it. Without the support of all of you, of the Pod Squad, Meanie mentioned earlier, we'd just be talking to each other on the phone. And when we started this, Meanie, when you first reached out to me, and that makes me seem like a big shot, so I want to actually go back another year. So almost, I believe it was almost, if not to the day, almost to the day of when you sent me a message asking if I'd be interested in doing a podcast.
Yeah.
A year earlier, I sent you a message and you big dogged me because you had posted something about should I do a podcast on Twitter. You'd put that out there.
I did a poll.
And I shot you a message and said, hey, man, if you're ever interested in anything I can help with, I obviously was doing Bill's podcast, more than happy to help out. I don't even think I pitched myself as doing it with you. I basically was just kind of like backdoor working my way in there. Like, hey, any help you need, just let me know. And you never responded. And I was
I'm horrible at Messenger.
And, but then I saw you like a week or so later, I think, at an MLW show, and I kind of was just like, I like mentioned it to you, and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do one. So,
you grabbed me by my collar and you slapped me. How dare you no sell me?
Yep.
And I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Shernoff.
You didn't know what was going on. I walked over to you. I set up. I unfolded my step stool. I stepped up. I grabbed your collar. I looked you right in the eyes. No, but so we were at an MLW show in February of 2020, right before the world ended, and
right on the cusp.
We did an interview, a really good, fun interview for On the Ropes, which is right here on FITE. You can find that On the Ropes on FITE. And we did this great interview, and that was kind of, I think, what sparked it for you. And then you reached out to me, which was the coolest thing. And it changed my life for sure. It absolutely, I mean, that sounds like hyperbole, but it really did. I mean, my life today, I mean, hell, man, I've got a freaking action figure coming out. That was not in the cards for me 50 weeks ago. So,
well, here's the deal. It's like, people have always told me I should write a book or do a podcast. And it's like, yeah, I'd love to. I've been trying to write a book for the last 15 years. I got stories written. It's just, what else do I write about? How deep do I want to go? But then it came to the thought of the podcast. I was like, man, I do want to do a podcast. But, I've said this plenty of times before on the show, but for those new to FITE, my theory is whoever you work with is a representation of you in everything else as well. Al Snow trained me. Everything I do in wrestling is a representation of Al Snow because he brought me into the business. Now, if I'm going to do a podcast with somebody and then they go out and say something so outlandish that I can't even defend it, and then I'm married to somebody doing this podcast, I'm like, whoa, fuck me, right? But like, I've always, admired your hard work because I'd seen the stuff you're doing with Bill. You're doing stuff with FITE. And then we did the interview at MLW. And we were just hanging around bullshitting, just shooting the shit anyway. Me, you, and Calvin. And then we did the interview. And it was like maybe a week or two later, I'm driving home. And a blue light bulb went over my head. I was like, well, fuck. Josh is a good dude. He's not controversial. He's not going to go out and, pick fights and start arguments on social media and see all this goofy shit
hide behind people.
I wanted somebody who was professional and I knew wouldn't embarrass me. And, you were perfect. And I reached out, and then 50 episodes later, I know I made the right choice to ask you.
I agree. No, and I appreciate it. And it's just been awesome. And it's, I was doing all these things with FITE, and I had So Says Shernoff, and I had these other, projects I was doing, but I never had how can I word this? I don't want to say I never had fans. I never had a community, a fan base that I felt like what I was doing every week, they were really receiving. I felt like everything I would do would be like, here's a fun interview, and they'd kind of enjoy it. And that was it. And it was a good interview, and it was very much focused on who I was interviewing, as it should be. A good interviewer should not be making it about themselves. But I never, because of that, I never really had an opportunity to interact with any of the people that were watching the stuff that I was working so hard at. So now, through this podcast, it has been one of the best aspects of it has been all of the people that I get to interact with who listen to us and watch what we do. And just the fact that I feel like, and this is maybe it's an ego thing or whatever, but I feel like this instant gratification through our Patreon, of course, because they're on here watching us live. But, but also at the same time, they keep you on your toes. If I make a joke and it's not funny, they'll let me know. And but it's fun. And it's become a thing where now we have these fans that are basically friends that we get to just interact with. It's so much fun. I don't want to go too much more into the whole history of our show because 3 weeks from now, we're going to be doing our 1 year anniversary show. But still, I just felt like 50 episodes is an incredible milestone. So thank you, everybody. I mentioned interviews. And we don't do interviews on this show. We don't have guests. Right. That was something in the very beginning that Meanie said to me. I don't want to have guests because I don't want the pressure of having to get someone on every week. I don't want to bother people every week.
I always feel like I'm a bother sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like, but I agree completely because it's just like, hey man, you want to get on the show? And at first someone's like, yeah, oh, that'd be awesome. And then you're just like, hey, so what date works for you? And they're like, oh, this one doesn't work. Oh, well, what about this date? What about that date? And it's like, then it becomes work. It becomes,
We're on episode 50, and I feel if we had guests every week, Al Snow would have been on like 20 times by now.
Yet, Al has been on 0 times.
Yeah. And that's not a knock on Al. It's just like we're talking about Rolodex, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think maybe we should try and get Al on for our 1 year anniversary. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, let's try and do that. Al.
We did aim for because we had a goal for 500 followers on our YouTube.
Yes.
To get guests, and we had a fun episode with that. We almost had Al on that, but he was traveling,
flying somewhere. Yeah.
And
it just didn't work out scheduling wise. But people always hear that as like this like random excuse. Oh, we couldn't work out our schedules. And you always, like, I used to always think about that when like it'd be like, oh, we wanted to bring this person back for a cameo on a TV show, but we couldn't get our schedules to work. And I'm always like, what do you mean you couldn't get your schedules to work? Just figure it out, work it out. Turns out scheduling is the most complicated aspect of doing any sort of a show. And
as with the interview we're about to have now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we decided for our 50th episode, we would have a special interview. It was an interview that we promised for our YouTube when we hit 1,000 subscribers over at youtube.com/mindofthemeanie. And we will. Then scheduling made it a little tough. Now that interview will be available in its entirety on its own on our YouTube channel. That will be there. But yeah, we just said, you know what? We finally can work this out schedule-wise. We were able to do it earlier this week, and we said, well, let's just do it. Let's put this in our episode 50. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Because, and Meanie, tell us a little bit about how this interview came to be.
Well, our guest, Andrew from Wildcat Championship Belts.
I would say Andrew Lazarchik. Is that correct?
I'll take it.
I'm trying to. It's Lazarchik. I don't want to call him Lazarchik. That doesn't seem right, but maybe it is.
Right. And that's why, in full disclosure to the podcast, I've been lying to you folks and not saying his last name because I was like, oh, I don't know if he wants his last name out there.
It is
I couldn't pronounce it. I couldn't pronounce it.
In the beginning of the interview that you're about to see, Meanie's like, and we're here with Drew. Or no, you're like, we're here with Andrew or Drew. And and we just ran with it.
I've known the guy for 27 years. I still can't pronounce his last name.
But that's... I'm glad you brought it. I wasn't going to out you on it, but such a awesome dude. Andrew is he makes every single WWE belt that you see. I'm sorry, championship.
He made my BWO belt, which I proudly display behind me with my big fat head.
I was going to say, you proudly display it. Yeah, my favorite tie is right in the center of my my display.
Yeah.
No, it just
I'm not a perfect person, people. All right.
So by the way, when I asked you to explain how this interview came about, that was so that I could pull up his name real quick to try and say what his name was.
Full disclosure.
And that's what we do. If this is your first time tuning into Mind of the Meanie, this is what Mind of the Meanie is. And when you go to all of your friends and say, you need to watch this on YouTube or watch this on FITE or subscribe over at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, what we want you to tell people is it's talk radio. It's basically Meanie and Josh sit around and bullshit for 1, 2, 5, 10 hours. And those early shows were like 4 hours. Holy shit, they went on a long time. We were just so excited with what we were doing, I think, that we just kept going and going.
Talking to other people. I was beginning the quarantine, I love Mrs. Meanie.
I think that was a lot of it. Now that I'm thinking about it, Meanie, I think that was a lot of why they went on so long.
Yeah, it's just like talking to somebody outside the bubble, and they were just, yeah, I'm a human too. What are you doing over in your human area? Just like when two dogs see each other out in the wild, just fucking.
Me and I were basically sniffing each other's butts for 4 hours. What helped was we got the Roadcaster. Oh God, were you gonna press that button?
I did.
Oh God. I guess I talked over it, but everyone else will be able to hear it. You know what though? That's not the only one we have. We also got, for anyone who's joining late to the party, here's one that we have from Meanie. Here's another one we have from Meanie. And now we have the newest one. So,
that second one sounded like it had company.
Yep. Oh man. But anyway, so to our interview, we're gonna throw to our interview right now. It was earlier in the week with Andrew Lazarchik, or Lazarchik, from Wildcat Belts, the creator of the WWE's championship belts, among many other belts. He talks to us all about it. Some great pictures. So if you're just listening to this, I recommend that you go check this out on our YouTube, youtube.com/mindofthemeanie. Check out this interview or watch this on FITE, because we have some pictures he sent us that we get to kind of show throughout the interview. And it's really exciting. So right now, without any further ado, this is Meanie and Josh sending it off to Meanie and Josh.
So this is a very cool episode. Very cool that, we don't really have guests here on Mind and the Meanie, but being our 50th episode, I'd like to bring somebody on who is not only part of my history, but is part of wrestling history now. We go back to the days of Steel City Wrestling with Norm Connors, and had plenty of good times in the beginning of our careers, but I've gone on to do my thing with ECW WWE, and now this gentleman right here does plenty of things for all things wrestling belts. My good buddy Andrew Drew, right here, all the way from Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Latrobe, baby.
I kind of set you up for that one because I knew.
I see how you do it now. Exclusive estates, Latrobe, right here. Wildcat Championship belts.
Awesome, man! Thank you for joining us. I know Josh is super excited.
I'm very excited
too, because we're both belt marks. But he's like, "Hey, do you think he can get the Andrew on? We can talk about."
I have been so excited for this, and this was originally we promised we would do this for our YouTube subscribers when we hit 1,000 subscribers. And then we were like, well, we're also just going to put this on. We were like, well, why don't we put it on here? Why don't we put it on there? Because we're both very excited. But yeah, I think I might even be more excited than Meanie about this. Just because I'm a little bit more removed. Like Meanie has a belt from you, which we are definitely going to want to talk about. I have a belt that's always sitting over my shoulder. I'll grab it here and destroy my entire setup. But I've got this belt that was made by Reggie Parks, my old wrestling company and stuff. And it's got the little Reggie Parks signature on there.
Right.
But so for me, that was growing up. All I really knew about belt makers was Reggie Parks. As time went on, you start to learn about like J Mar and like things like that. Those were all the names in the 90s that, J Mar you knew because you saw his gigantic J Mar tag on any belt that he did.
Yeah.
But so I'm interested, if I may ask, just how did you get into this? Like Meanie mentioned, you guys go a long way back. So how did you get into wrestling? But then how did you get into making belts? Because every kid, you always have a story. Anyone who ever grew up wanting to be a wrestler or became a wrestler, they had their cardboard belt that they made, or they got their replica belt that they altered or whatever it is. And like the dream come true, I feel like would be to be able to just make your own belt. And we'll get into the difference of quality of some belt makers in a minute, but how did you first get into belt making?
Well, I've been a wrestling fan since Hulkamania came on the scene. So 1983, 84, that's when I got into wrestling. I was a Hulkamaniac, but Andre the Giant was my favorite. So I was pulling for him at WrestleMania 3. But so I was a wrestling fan growing up, and me and Meanie, I think we're about the same age. I was born in 76.
Yeah, you don't look nearly as old as Meanie.
You son of a.
Well, wait a second.
Oh, all right, there it is. All right.
Right
But yeah, so I was a wrestling fan in the 80s and 90s, and anybody who was a fan back then, after the big boom in 87, 88, and even in 89, wrestling wasn't as popular, and you weren't exactly cool for being a wrestling fan.
Sure.
But I didn't care. It never stopped me. I watched it every week. Every Saturday, Sunday, and then Mondays, when it started on Raw. I was a WWF guy. But I did watch NWA and WCW and AWA. I loved AWA on at 4:00 on ESPN from the Showboat Sports Pavilion in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Wow.
As Rod Trongard would say. But anyways, but just kind of like you said, I made them out of paper. My aunt, she worked at a bank here in town, and if you remember the old dot matrix printers, where the paper was like a giant roll and it was like perforated every 11 inches. So she worked at a bank, and she would bring me all of her leftover paper, the dot matrix paper. So it would be like connected. So if I could find 3 sheets of paper that were still connected, that could fit around my 10-year-old waist. Wow. So I would find the 3 sheets, and then I would just draw a belt and cut them out and color it, wear them around every day. I'm talking like every day I'd draw at least 2-3 belts. And then, so that's kind of how it started. And then as I got older, my dad, he was a pharmacist. He owned his own drugstore here in Latrobe. And one of his clients was a roofer, John's Roofing. And we had to have our new roof put in, new roof and new siding on our house. And at that time, what they put on your shingles, under your shingles, was this rubber sheet. This is rubber roofing, it was called. But when you're 10, 11 years old, that looks just like leather because it's black. And I'm like, oh, there's all scraps laying around. So I started using that, and we had, new siding. It was metal siding. So I'd get sandpaper and sand the siding down so it would look silver. Wow. And then at first I would draw a Sharpie on the pen, or on the metal, and then glue that to the rubber roofing. And then as we fast forward, my dad saw that I was doing it. He asked John, who, came in the store all the time, hey, if you have any more scrap, drop it off. And every 2 weeks, we would have a pile of scrap rubber roofing in front of our house that I could make more belts on. So I've never forgot that.
Do you have any of these? Do you still have any of these belts that you used to make?
The originals, no. They're all but a memory. I've looked and looked, and my mom keeps everything, but for some reason, those ones just didn't make it. I don't know why. I wish I did.
She sold them on eBay.
Yeah. She would have had to have me come over there and tell her how to turn the computer on first. So. But no. So they're gone, unfortunately. But I do have some older ones, but I used to make them. Then as I kind of stepped up in the world, you ever see like on a door, like not necessarily a fancy door, but at the bottom of the door, there's a kick plate, and it's usually brass. So I would go to the hardware store and get those because it was a nice reflective metal. Yeah. And I got some metal snips, and I would cut those out, and I would use a metal engraver. Like, you ever see those engravers if you want to put your name on a key, or want to mark the key to where it's at. I would use that. I would literally burn them out because I would have to have it on so long to draw the whole belt that the motor would burn out. So I would always be getting new ones of those, and I would draw them that way. And I do have some of those still. I'll have to send you some pictures.
Yeah, please do.
So, I was just doing that through junior high and high school, just for myself. I just had them, sitting around the house. And then that was kind of it for a couple years after. Then I went to college. And then when I was in college is when I got involved in indie wrestling. And then I kind of got into, that's where I met Meanie. I got involved in the, indie scene here in Pittsburgh, doing pretty much anything. So managing, refereeing, ring announcing, eventually promoting. And that's how I got my foot in the door with wrestling. And then, we're kind of fast forwarding here, but then, graduate college, I went to school for graphic design. So that plays a big role.
Not surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to play a big role in being able to design belts. But, so then I worked in the real world for a while, and, it just wasn't, it is what it is, when you work for someone else, and, it doesn't always go the way you want it to go. I start thinking, I know I could make belts. I can make real belts. I know I could do this. And, there's no handbook on how to do it. Now you can go online and kind of probably piece it together a little easier. But at that time, there was very few people doing it and less people telling you how to do it. So
Right.
I just really started doing the research and trying to figure out, I knew how to design them. I could design them, but actually physically making them took a lot of research and time and effort. But, slowly but surely I figured out the metal part. I taught myself leather work, just kind of put all the pieces together. And actually the first belt that I made was an NWA Tennessee Southern Tag Team titles. It was the first belt I sold, I should say, not the first belt I made. First belt I made, it was just a generic world title. And the first show, Meanie, that I went to display, to like tell people, hey, I make belts now, was one of your shows at the ECW Arena in May of 05.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
3PW, right?
What?
At 3PW, right?
3PW, yes. I want to say, and looking back on it, I think John Moxley was on that show. You were on it. I can't really remember. Oh no, who are the guys? Monster Mac and Mafia Mac.
Yeah,
they were
squad.
The Hit Squad. Yes. I remember those guys real well. I forgot their names in the ring once. I was managing them. I was managing. It was the first time I met them. I never met them before. Super nice guys. And they said, you're going to manage these guys tonight. So we're doing a promo in the ring against Don Montoya. And I'm getting in Montoya's face, and they're backing me up. And I go, and whenever you face, and I didn't know his name. And I'm like, this guy, this guy in the ring, and he's going to take care of you too. And I went in the back. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. We never told each other our names. I didn't know your name.
Oh, wow.
That's an offshoot story there.
But so talking about you taught yourself how to make leather. One of the things that you always kind of hear from people who are collectors or really obsessed with, belt nerds, as we like to call ourselves, that you can really tell a quality belt from the leather, more so even than the metal itself. The
metal you can too.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I mean, a replica to you can definitely tell the difference. Can you kind of walk us through why you can tell the difference? So because I can look at it and go, all right, that's clearly a replica. That's clearly a real belt, but I don't know why I can tell that is clearly a replica and that's clearly a real belt. So what is it that goes into the process between some of these? And we'll talk about like the high end replicas, because obviously the ones that are pretty much a toy, it's a toy, but the ones that are like these few $100s for these replica belts, and they're like on real leather and all, like why is it different?
Well, I'll steal a phrase. I'm a big fan, and I've actually done a belt for the TV show This Old House. I don't know if you watched that, but one of the what?
Nice name drop.
I feel like you have a pretty long list of names you could drop if you wanted to.
I usually I work so much. It's funny you say that. I work so much, and then when I sit back and really think about it, I'm like, wow, I've done a lot of belts for like crazy amounts of big name places. But anyway, so I did a belt for This Old House. But Tom Silva, who's a master carpenter on there, he always says the money's in the details, and that's the truth here when it comes to this. There's certain tooling that you can do on the leather that the tools aren't necessarily special tools. You can get any of these tools at any leather crafting place, but the experience of using them in conjunction with each other and not just trying to copy the look but make your own look. Belts kind of are what they are, so I'm not going to come off here and say that I'm the most original. I came up with this whole process. I can think we can all thank Reggie Parks for that. I mean, I've had the good fortune to actually thank him in person for what he's done. But that's really where the difference is in the little small minute details of the tooling and the way the leather's cut and finished on the edges and things like that. The real belts are real leather, but like when you get into the replicas, that are like the $300-$400 ones, they're definitely great. They're nicer than anything we had when we were kids.
Oh God, yeah.
But they're they're made. They're not. Well, some of them are leather. The really high end ones are leather, but a lot of them, I don't know. I've never made a replica belt. They're more of a like one big stamp You know what I mean? That like comes down, like it's like on a big pressure thing, and it's they have like a die made with the shape and tooling and everything, and just boom, and it's one big stamp, and that's it. Whereas with real belts, you have to, each one of those little specks is a pound of the tool. Wow. So it's a way more time involved, way more effort involved in making a real belt than the replicas.
Meanie, do you have any questions? Because I could just keep rolling here. I've got 100 more in the chamber. So if you want to jump in with something.
No, I had a feeling that you were going to hijack the interview, but
is that because of my love for belts, or because you've done 50 episodes with me and you just kind of know?
No, I know that today's your Christmas. You get to talk about belts and stuff like that. And I'm trying to remember. Did you make belts for those early Norm shows too, as well, or no?
Steel City, I did.
Yeah, I remember you belts because like it's kind of cool, like how our worlds kind of went on a similar trajectory. With you were managing, I was wrestling, and then you started bringing the belts around to Norm Connor shows and stuff like that. And then here we are all these years later. I got the BWO belt behind me, and I was
the world title on TV. I'm making the world title on TV, so that's crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I know, like, obviously we're not putting you on here to get trade secrets, and I'm sure there are so many questions that I could ask that people want to hear that we're just not going to go into. But how much of your involvement of how you got to where you are now are you able to share with us, of how that came about? Because that's kind of a big deal. This is the top of belt making, to be able to be making championship belts that are, in the WWE. How do you go from, you're making the belts for Steel City, you're doing things like that. Is it almost like a bidding thing? Is it kind of, or did somebody just see your work?
No, it was making my own opportunity, quite honestly. When I started professionally making belts, it would have been in 2005, like I was saying. May 15th, 2005 was when I officially started a business, and I was just doing it on the side. But I was making belts and they looked good, but I knew they weren't WWE quality yet. But you can't fly into flying, you know what I mean? You got to learn first, what you're doing. So it took me, I would say, a good 2 years before I got the quality where it really needed to be. And I didn't even want to contact WWE, because you only have one chance to make a first impression. Right. So I didn't want to contact them and show them some crap, or what they would look at as being crap.
Can I ask, what is the difference in the quality, in the sense of, like, you say it took you 2 years? Was it just the stuff you were doing by hand? Was it, obviously we're talking about the details, but what would you say you worked on in those 2 years that made it so different?
Well, yeah, definitely the quality of just the craftsmanship, the painting. At that time, I hadn't really figured out the metal work just yet, the best way to do the metal work.
Okay.
It was a lot thinner. My first ones were like a very thin metal. It was actually, they were engraved directly onto brass, which is a very thin metal and a very shallow etch. So it looks more like the replicas.
Okay.
Excuse me. The original replicas that used to come out. But so I got better at that. Design work wasn't as big of a deal, because WWE does all their own designs. So it certainly helps whenever I need to do what I got to do, but I don't have any input in any of that. So I got it to the point where I knew I had the quality that they could use on TV. But, like you said, it's a matter of, well, how do you get in? Who do you talk to? So went to a show here in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, the Cambria County War Memorial. There was a WWE live event. I purposely got a seat on the aisle right by the ring entrance, and I had it all timed out. I was waiting for intermission, and here comes Howard Finkel to go to the locker room. And I don't know how I got his attention, because everyone was screaming for him. I got his attention. I know I had 2 seconds. I'm like, Howard, this is legit. I make real belts. Who do I got to talk to in the office to work on to get these belts in the right person's hands? He told me the department to contact. I called that number on Monday, got a call back on Tuesday, and said, hey, I'm just looking. I make belts. I just want to show you what I can do. And they were like, "That works out perfect because we're looking for someone new to make belts for us."
Oh.
And I said, well, and I had made a belt. I back up here. I designed my own Intercontinental title belt just to show them that I could design and what I could do physically, making the belt.
Your own of their style Intercontinental belt.
I just made it to be able to show it to them. So they say, well, send us the belt and we'll take a look at it. And right there I knew that was my opportunity. I said, well, I could do that, but I'd really just like 15 minutes of your time to sit in front of you and tell you about what I do and my past and, how I can help you guys. And they're like, well, how does next Thursday look? Booked an appointment for Stamford, Connecticut next Thursday, drove up to Connecticut, got to go to Titan Towers, meet with the department, and they liked what they saw. And a couple months later, I got my first order for the United States title.
Wow. Awesome.
So that's the obviously not the current, because this was a while ago, the previous, the one that everybody remembers. You mentioned the WWE makes the designs, but with the rest of what Wildcat Belts does, that's part of what you offer. People can go to your website. I may or may not have, drooled over your website a couple of times, weekly, daily. But, so you create there, you have something on there that shows like a sketch, somebody like kind of just someone without much artistic ability. And I don't mean that as an insult, but a normal person drew something, sent it in, and you created this incredible piece from that. How often do you have things like that? How often do you have people who will just say, yeah, I have absolutely no idea, but I want it to say, here's the name of the company and this is what I want. And then if you can you kind of take us a little bit through the BWO belt that you made and the process in coming up with that and how you and Meanie work together to put that together?
Yeah, a majority, as you can imagine, a majority of the people don't have artistic ability, and, quite frankly, I'll be 100% honest with you. I have a graphic design ability and computer artistic ability. I can't draw anything freehand. So if I had to draw a belt freehand, I'm out of luck. So, but yeah, a lot of times people will come with just a rough sketch. They say, hey, I know I want it to say BWO on it and we're taking over and that's all I got. So, and then other people, a lot of times when I work for corporations, they have their own advertising department and, creative department. Mm-hmm. They might develop the entire artwork and give me final art. I don't have to do anything. But like I said, being a graphic designer, I have the ability to take a general idea out of the air and come up with something and work, with a client. And a lot of times it's not the first draft that they go with. It might be a good starting point, but no, we want to change this. We don't want that.
Has there been something like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just overexcited, but has there been something like, and it maybe WWE, maybe not WWE, but someone who has created their own and they send it to you and say, here's what we want to do. And then you look at it and you go, okay, well, that looks amazing. Here's the practicality of it. We need to switch this. That needs to be slightly larger, slightly smaller.
Yeah, we get that a lot because the biggest thing that we have, and the biggest thing I have to tell people, especially corporate clients, is, when you're designing a belt, it's very different than when you're designing a print ad. When you're designing a print ad, there's no limitation with the way, Photoshop and Illustrator and all these programs work today. There's no limitation. Trying to engrave something in metal, there are limitations. We can make it work, but there's certain concessions you have to make. And the biggest thing, especially like when you have when you get in the corporate world, you get some of these agencies that have, these, 3-inch thick books of what you are and aren't allowed to do with their logo and things like that. Every color that is on a belt has to be surrounded by metal, because otherwise the paint is just going to run into each other, So if you have a logo that's like, a red M or a blue M with a red background, you have to have metal in between those two or else it just doesn't work. And a lot of companies have a big problem with that. Like, well, we don't have gold in our logo. We don't have that line in our logo. And I'm like, well, then you can't have it,
That's interesting.
When I was younger, I didn't say no. And then I would get myself in a situation where it would be something they don't want. But now, as I've gotten older and more experienced with this, I have the confidence to push back and be like, look, I know that's what you want, but it doesn't work like that. You're going to have to do it this way.
It's funny. I'm looking at, because I still have this here, and you can see in that TWF, we did not have gold, but I don't know how easily it'll blur out as I show you. But yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. I looked down, I never even noticed it. But yeah, we never had a gold outline or any sort of outline between the black and the red. But there you go. Everywhere that's on here, it has to be. Yeah. And that's, never thought about it.
When did you get that belt?
I got this belt, it arrived in the mail June 18th, 1999.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's really like my prized possession here, that I think, based on the fact that it's the Teenage Wrestling Foundation belt, is pretty much worthless to anyone else. But to me, because this was made, as I even got older, the fact that this was made by Reggie Parks is yeah, I mean, it really means a lot. And obviously, you know, I don't have to explain to you what he means to the belt community. But yeah, so when it comes to Meanie's belt, so like, Meanie, did you give him like a sketch or a drawing of like, hey, here's kind of the outside shape I want? Or
when it came to working with Andrew, it was pretty easy. And I learned this, and it's funny, Andrew, you just said, you know, how you had to learn how to push back. I learned a lot from my friends who do tattoos. And they get people come in and go, I want this and that and whatever. It's like, well, that'd be $2,000, you know, or whatever, because they want everything crammed in this one little thing, but they want you to work on the price. But I was like, look, I learned from my tattoo friends, leave it in the hands of the artist, and you usually get the best results. You know what I'm saying? The people.
I have a client right now that I'm literally on the 6th proof, and it's. I gave them something that I thought looked good, and they tweaked it, and now they're tweaking their tweaks, and now they're tweaking their tweaks, and it's just like, at this point, I'm just like, whatever. I get to a point where it's like, I did what looked good, and we want to tweak it a little bit, okay, but now we're down a road where you're doing whatever you want to do. You're going to get, if you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. But if it were my choice, it wouldn't be what I would do. But, you know, customer's always right.
And that's when you charge the asshole tax.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I came to Andrew, I was just like, you know what? Here's some bullet points. I definitely want, of course, the BWO logo. I want, the established date, kind of like a business, established on. And I sent him the BWO logo. I sent him the T-shirt logo. I sent him the BWF&O artwork. I said, have at it. And I trusted him because, his quality can't be denied. So and he sent me an initial proof, and I was like, that it's perfect. It's perfect.
I don't think we changed it at all, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think we changed anything either. And I was surprised because, when it came to the ribbons or the banners or whatever that's called, it's like, man, I don't know what to put in there. I don't want to, Blue World. And then you came up with the great idea, just putting We're Taking Over with the banners and stuff. And as soon as you sent me the artwork, and the cool thing about this whole process is you sent me progress photos, and it was just like,
I don't normally do that.
I know, and I haven't shared them either. So because that means a lot to me as well. So, but yeah, man, what was it like working on the BWO belt? Because
that was pretty cool.
I basically said, "Here's my bullet points. It's in your hands." Yeah,
that was pretty cool because BWO is a big deal. You know what I mean? You and I at that time, we were friends, but you lived in Philly, I'm here in Pittsburgh, so we didn't talk that often when the BWO was actually happening. But I remember the only time I don't think I've ever told you this, Brian. The only time I ever lied and called off work when I was in college, I called off sick. I worked at a gas station because I hated my roommates so much. I just wanted to not be in the room, so I actually got a job at a gas station at a Citco up the street. But the only time I ever lied and told them I was sick and called off work was the night that ECW invaded the Manhattan Center, because I knew you guys were going to be there.
That's awesome.
And I went to Norm's house, and Notorious Norm from Steel City Wrestling, and we watched it live. But that was pretty cool to have, to be able to work on something that, is, it's a legit iconic happening in wrestling, the BWO. But yeah, when you sent me the stuff, I just, kind of was playing with it. And, you said you wanted a classic look. You didn't because we can do a belt that's a totally modern, not your typical type of belt, but you said you wanted something classic, but, with the BWO, just the whole, mystique around it was, the we're taking over and BWO in your face. So it's kind of like a classic belt with a stamp right on it. You know what I mean? That was kind of the idea behind it. I think it turned out great.
I love it.
I've seen people at conventions just come up to that belt and just stare at it, myself included. But yeah, I've seen so many people that they're just like, this is so cool. Because again, and this is nothing against anyone who has a replica belt. If I was not in the business and if I was a kid, my God, that would have been the only thing on my birthday list would have been replica belt after replica belt. So I get it completely. But you go and you see these belts, you're not used to just seeing a real belt, and then to see one as custom as the BWO belt, it's just really, really cool.
I think one of the cool things too is, for me, is, I've made, I don't know how many belts over the years. It's been almost 16 years now, thousands. But when I see, go to conventions and someone might have an old WWF belt or NWA belt, I still am like a kid again, and I work with these every day. That's what I do for a living. But it's still real to me, damn it. I love these belts. So I still have that same feeling too, even though I'm making them.
Yeah, you talked about.
Is it hard to part with some of these? You're like, man, this is really nice. Maybe
I'll keep this one for myself and make another one for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. They're spending the money. That's going back to. I actually got to tell him this too. Going back to being a fan in high school and it not being popular in junior high and people making fun of you and stuff.
Yeah.
Bobby the Brain was on the Arsenio Hall show, and he was being the weasel, and everyone was calling him names and booing him and hissing him, and he was making fun of him. And Arsenio goes, "Does it bother you when these people call you a weasel?" And he said, none of these people greet me at the bank when I make my deposit. And it's a funny line, and it's true, but literally 14-year-old me heard that, and that really stuck with me. Knowing that someday I'm going to be making a living somehow in this business of some sort, whether it's in wrestling or doing belts or anything, you know what I mean? That screw the other people. What do you care if they don't like you? You know what I mean? So when it comes to belts, yeah, it's cool, but it's a living, and I don't mind parting with it. I take my pictures and put it on.
So you didn't make your own WWE championship that you just occasionally take out of the closet and wear around the house.
For as many belts as I've made, I really don't have that many. You know what I mean? You would think I would, but I really don't. I just have a handful, one or two here or there, and they're not even displayed anywhere. So
you're like the chef who doesn't like to cook at home. You're just like,
I'm assuming things are very different than they were back in the day. You always hear the stories of Reggie Parks or Dave Milliken will tell stories about how they have all these ring used belts. Well, how do you get them? WWE just sent them back. They're like, oh, we need a new one, a fresh one. Here's the old one. Yeah. And they're just like, okay, I guess I'll keep it. I'm assuming nowadays when WWE's done with a belt, they don't send it back to you. They just put it in the warehouse somewhere.
No, we don't. I don't get involved in any of that.
Another question I have for you, refurbishing belts. So you have, I believe on your website, there's something about that, right?
I hope not.
Or I've made it up. Maybe it was me looking at it going, I wonder if he would refurbish a belt.
A lot of times the other request I get a lot is to re-leather replicas.
Okay.
Like a replica, they want the leather. But honestly, I don't do that because the amount that I would have to charge to make it worth my while, not to to sound arrogant, but to make it worth my while, it's probably more than the belt cost you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just don't even do it because it's actually, there's a lot of work in that, because when you make a belt from scratch, I have it all on the computer and I have all the measurements and everything like that. It's all digital. And then an output, I make all of it from that. When you're sending me a replica that I didn't make the plates, I literally have to measure them by hand with a ruler and write it down and figure it out. It's actually more work to do that than to make a real one. So
it's interesting.
Yeah, I just don't get into that.
You talked before about how, companies will have their logos and I've dealt with that even, our show now, this episode is our first one airing on FITE, and FITE has the same thing where they'll send and say, this is the size has to be, this is the exact color red in the logo, this, all that stuff. Do you have, if we look back at some old belts, there are times, what jumps to mind is the tag belts that Money Inc. held back in the day, where the world, instead of being red, was like black paint.
Yeah.
Is it specifically, they come to you, like a WWE, for instance, would come to you and say, this is the exact red you have to use, this is the exact blue you have to use? Or do you have, and I know a lot of their belts now don't have as much color as they used to, but are you able to just be like, hey, I think this will be a pretty nice looking blue on it this time? Or does it have to be?
Well, it depends who you're dealing with. Certain companies, you have to, you have to do what they're asking for. Other companies, again, you can push back and be like, well, look, it'll be close, but it's not going to be exact, and it's fine. I haven't really run into an issue where, I did a belt and they got it and they were like, well, this is totally wrong. This is PMS 300, not 301. That hasn't happened. It's surprising. Now that I said that, it's going to happen next week.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
Yeah. But there's certain places you have to be exact because they're paying top dollar. But there's other ones too, not because they're not paying top dollar, but there's certain, it kind of goes back to the metal thing I was telling you about. You have to be realistic. You know what I mean? This is not print media. This is engraving in metal and custom fabrication, one-off type thing. We're not doing 1,000 of them and we can waste 300 to get before we get it right. You only have one shot.
Do you have a dream belt that you would like to make that you've never been able to? And do you have a favorite belt that you've ever made?
Well, I kind of did that with the dream belt whenever I got to do the WWE World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go much.
No, it doesn't get higher than that. So, I had I tell people I had I'm not a worker, I'm not a wrestler, I'm not in the WWE, but I personally feel I had a WrestleMania moment whenever they unveiled the women's championship at WrestleMania in Dallas. Because that was the first legit world title that I made. And it legitimately was a big deal when Lita came out in front of 100,000 people and literally unveiled it. And I was actually there for that event. I think I was wearing this shirt, as a matter of fact. But I was there to see that in person and be there. So that was pretty cool to be able to do that.
How nerve-wracking was that? Like, I mean, you made it exactly to the specs of what they wanted. Yeah. But we have definitely seen belts debut on television that have literally been booed out of the building. Were you just thinking to yourself, oh my God, please just like this, or are you just like, hey, whatever, I made what they wanted. I cashed my check.
That's basically it. I made what they wanted. It's not up to me to make sure people like stuff. I made what the customer wanted, and okay, they're happy. That's all I care about. But as far as my favorite belt that I ever made, someone just asked me that the other day, and I was just thinking there was something I'm in the middle of doing right now, and now I'm drawing a blank on what it is. But it's pretty cool. Like I said, any of the WWE ones are cool to do, but to actually design from scratch, like the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Championship, that one I've done since 2007. And that was pretty cool to be able to say that one that's probably other than WWE, that's my biggest account as far as notoriety. I know what it was. So I can tell you this. The person who asked me that, I couldn't say anything, but now I can because it's been on TV. If you guys watch Food Network, Guy Fieri has a show called the Tournament of Champions. And it's all the Food Network stars compete in a tournament to see what the best is. Well, this year, the winner gets a Wildcat Championship belt that I designed from scratch.
Wow.
Awesome.
And I was really excited about that one. I really like the design of it. It actually is going to start soon, but the commercials are on now. So you can see the belt on the commercial now. So that one was pretty cool too, to be able to.
Every once in a while, most of the things I do, my wife is like, no, that's cool. That's cool. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to interview the guy who makes the belts. Oh, that's cool. When I tell her, hey, you know what belt he makes? She's going to lose her mind because she watches the Food Network. So God, that's amazing.
And this weekend you can tune in. You say, hey, I know the guy that makes.
Well, hey, Meanie, any other questions or something? I don't want to keep you here too long. Because
we know you're a busy man. I just want to say thank you for coming on, man. Like I said, our stories of our paths crossed and kind of went on the same trajectory. I'm very proud of you. What's that, buddy?
You were in Eastern PA and I was in Western PA.
Yeah, Pennsylvania's basically Philadelphia, Pittsburgh with Kentucky in between. So it's just. Nah, it's cool though.
Not that there's anything wrong with Kentucky. Al Snow will not come on our show now.
No, seriously, dude. I just want to say I'm proud, and I gladly display the belt you made for me every week on Mine of the Meanie. It means a lot because, I'm a belt mark, but I would always wanted a belt, and just to have that personal touch on it. And just to know it was made by somebody who I have a relationship with and kind of came up with means even more. So when me and Mrs. Me will be laying around watching the Food Network later, this is our lounge too. She'll catch me looking up, staring at it like, oh, you like that belt, huh? I'm like, yes.
It was cool to be able to do it. I think it turned out good, and I was glad too that Stevie and Nova were cool with it too, because I wanted them to be sure they were okay with doing it too. So I'm still waiting for them to order one.
Yeah, yeah. It's good enough too. I've had people come up to me and go, "Oh, you're gonna make replicas?" I'm like, "Nope, nope."
That one's for me. Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely at some point am going to be putting an order in for a belt. I've had Meanie, and I've talked about this on the show before. I've got my dream of just one belt that all the different places, everything just represents all the different shows I've been able to do and the different parts of my career, all in one belt that I can display. So at some point, when that time comes, you're the guy that I'm going to be bugging about it. And
cool.
If you think that one guy with the six go backs is a lot. No, I trust the artist. I trust the artist with it. And, yeah, it's so cool to just kind of bend your ear a bit about this stuff and learn a little bit more about what goes into it.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
If you want to give out all your, if you want to give us your information, so the people at home or listening and watching along can look you up.
Yeah. The website is wildcatbelts.com. Then you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. It's both at Wildcat Belts. So that's the main places to get me. So wildcatbelts.com and at Wildcat Belts on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
That was awesome.
That was so much fun.
That really was. I was like a kid in a candy store, a little boy on Christmas morning, whatever analogy you want to use. I was... I could have asked him. Now, full disclosure, we did talk a little bit off air as well, and I was able to ask him some things we couldn't talk about on air, and he was able to answer half of them. But it was so much fun. It was so cool to
absolutely,
yeah, so cool to be able to have him on there. Thank you, Meanie, for setting that up for all of us.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
And I feel like at this point, maybe it's best that we ask Meanie anything.
I would love you. I would.
Freudian slip there, Meanie. I love you too. Right here, we're just gonna a little breaking news on Mind of the Meanie. The Blue Meanie has professed his love to me, and
it is true,
and it is the greatest day of my life.
Josh, you know it's true.
And the Blue Meanie and I. I didn't mean for you to be so low down. All right.
No, sorry, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again.
Yeah. Oh, that was just the microphone had fallen out. All right. There we go.
Yes.
Hey, you see this cut on my hand?
Yes.
So I also had a cut earlier in the week on my face. Every morning, my 8-month-old son, he comes into the bed. When he wakes up, my wife brings him into the bed. And if I'm still asleep, because it's like 6 a.m., he just comes over and he just starts crawling over to me. And he just grabs onto me, either my hand, my face, my arm, and his little razor blade fingernails that I swear to God get sharper when we try to make them less sharp. He just grabs on. I open my eyes and see this giant smiling face who couldn't be happier to be digging into me. And I saw this on the screen when I went up. He's just slicing me to bits. I'm being abused by my 8-month-old child.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's do it.
It's time to ask me anything. Ask me something.
For those of you joining us on FITE, you're welcome. I hope you've enjoyed the video that goes along with that sound. Before we do this, though, Meanie, I have my coffee that I didn't even drink yet, but I also have my seltzer, and I feel like this is something we've become known for on the show. I have a traditional lemon lime Wegmans brand.
And I have the bubbly.
Ooh.
Pineapple.
Pineapple. There we go. A little buble. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
There we are.
Go Birds. My nipple's so hard. Oh, Jesus.
What?
The bubbly.
Hey, the bubbly will do it to you. That's why I'm wearing a jacket.
Yeah. Take off your pants and jacket.
You know, in the beginning, I actually had thought to myself, maybe I will just wear the suit every single week on Mind of the Meanie. And then I was like, it's an audio show. Like, why am I going to do that? And then, because we were always like, we're going to film this a little bit, you know, and put it out on YouTube or Patreon or whatever. But now that I'm wearing a suit, I'm like, man, this is really good. I feel like myself. I feel like my action figure. But I'm not going to be doing this next week. What I will do is every single week, I will only wear merchandise that we sell over at ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie or ProWrestlingTees.com/Shernoff or ProWrestlingTees.com/Blue Meanie.
Which I am wearing this Cylinder of Sin shirt, which is the old travel lodge where ECW used to stay and do promos after shows. And if you stayed at the travel lodge in South Philly, you are immune from the COVID.
Because COVID goes to your body and goes, nope, I don't want anything to do with whatever is in there.
Yeah, the ghost of '96 was haunting you, you know. But right around here, right around here is where Steve Austin recorded the Monday NyQuil promo.
Wow,
that window there.
And right below that is where Sabu gave some. Well, that's a story for another time.
And right about there is when they walked into the room and there was a chalk outline on the floor,
and they saw that as an opportunity.
There's still some warmth.
God, I was talking about the chalk outline. I wasn't talking about a body. Jesus. Oh my God. Okay.
Nope, still warm.
I'm gonna let's see. What do we have here? All right, we're gonna start off with oh, by the way, Pod Squad. You know what? We'll start off with Andy Slichter because we just talked a lot about merchandise. And Andy Slichter is the man behind so much of our merchandise. Not the one that Meanie's
absolutely.
currently wearing, but so much of our merchandise, so many of our logos, including a logo we're going to tell you about in a little bit, but not quite yet. So don't let me forget. Andy Slichter says, who do you think the new AEW signings will be? Supposedly there is one for the ladder match as well as the Paul White one. Also, how about that No More BS shirt? Meanie? What are your thoughts?
So I thought there was supposed to be one signing. Is there going to be two?
Yeah, so there are two signings. Someone's going to be in the ladder match,
Okay.
the Face of the Revolution ladder match. And
Okay,
then there's
I
also,
thought-
they said that it's someone different. And Tony Khan has confirmed that it is a male. Because I know Tessa Blanchard was a name getting thrown around a little bit. But he confirmed that the signing they're talking about. So for anyone listening who maybe you don't watch AEW religiously, well, you should definitely check out alternative commentary right here on FITE yesterday as this airs. So, anyway, but it's still on demand. So, all right. Paul White, the former Big Show, came out and announced that there would be a Hall of Fame worthy person making their debut at Revolution last night. As you're seeing this, so very topical. So we know who it is at this point. So really, you know what, Meanie? We could just troll people and just be like, dude, did you see Brock Lesnar last night?
Yeah.
Show up in AEW? Man.
See CM Punk? Yeah.
CM Punk was there
CM
too.
Punk.
I couldn't believe that Lesnar was the one in the ladder match. And when he did that shooting star press off the top of the ladder.
Off the top at Daly's place.
Yeah.
Or Daly's place, wherever.
Daly's place, wherever. No, who do you think it's going to be? The two signees.
My hope would be CM Punk. And the reason why I say everybody, people always go, oh, CM Punk. But CM Punk's been back in a ring for a little bit. He's filming a TV show called Heels. I believe it's called Heels for Showtime. He's down there with my boy Luke Hawks filming in Atlanta. And Atlanta is a couple-hour drive from Jacksonville.
Yep.
So he's got the ring rust off. He's been rolling around in the ring lately. It would make perfect sense for him to be the mystery.
I think I kind of feel CM Punk too. The Lesnar thing just doesn't feel like it's going to happen. I feel like Lesnar's comfortable where he is.
Yeah.
But
his whole career's, minus, UFC and a trip to New Japan. In America, he's basically been WWE,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, watch him show up and make a fool of us and all that good stuff, or, yesterday.
I would love if it was Lesnar. Here's the thing. If it's not Lesnar, it's not CM Punk. I'm going to be happy with whoever it is, because whoever it is getting an opportunity to get a fresh coat of paint on them and have a new chapter of their career. And guess what? They're making some money, and that's never a bad thing. So,
yeah.
But I also think age doesn't need to be a requirement, as Sting made his return last night as you're listening to this, but Sunday night at AEW Revolution, Sting is back in the ring. We've seen him taking a vicious powerbomb. We've seen whatever it was that we're going to see at Revolution. So I'm kind of looking at this going, I don't know. Like Tony Khan said, it's one of his favorites of all time. Who knows? Who knows who it could be? It could be somebody that you're not really thinking about from maybe they haven't really been in the ring in the last, 10 years or so. And who are his favorites? Who knows? God, Tully Blanchard was just wrestling. Could be anybody.
It could be anybody. It could be anybody. But I'm rooting for CM Punk. I'm a big CM Punk fan.
Yeah, you don't even know his name, but
Yeah. Who'd he ever beat?
he ever beat you? You ever work him?
No, but I booked him.
Okay.
When I was running 3PW shows in Philly, I was the first person to bring him to Philadelphia. He was on the first 3PW show in a 6-man tag, him and Cole Cabana. And they wrestled Joey Matthews and Christian York, and the other participants escape my mind right now.
So I'm going to circle back because RJ Krasinski of our Patreon group says Christian or Kurt Angle, and Shackleford of our Patreon group just mentioned Angle posted a return video, which I have not yet seen.
Breaking news.
So I mean, I haven't seen that yet, but Kurt Angle return video, that could be a bit of a spoiler. You know, if you watched Dynamite this past week, it was pretty much ad-free shows, just minus Bruce Pritchard and I guess us. But everybody else from ad-free shows, including Conrad Thompson, seemed to be on there. Kurt Angle would be amazing. Kurt Angle would... when he went to TNA, I kind of was like, when it looked like his career was winding down, I'm like, he's got to wind his career down in WWE. How can he not? He's got to go back. And then we saw what that actually looked like. And I got to tell you, I would love to see him wind his career down in AEW. He is, I believe, in much better shape than he was when he retired before. But even if he comes back just in a managerial role, I think that would be huge. If he came back in a producer role, that would be huge to be able to be there training and helping teach people. So RJ says it was more of a hype video. But I'm also, Travis is suggesting RVD. And then Travis pointed out, but Angle's in the Hall of Fame already. And this is something I tweeted about too. And I know people listening to this are kind of like, hey, get off this topic because we already know who it was. But but I will say this. Big Show or Paul White said, he said Hall of Fame worthy, but he also called the event Evolution. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that he kind of messed up his words and meant to say Hall of Famer. But guess what? A Hall of Famer is also Hall of Fame worthy, save for a few people in the Hall of Fame.
I was joking to say, hey, you know, if you see a San Diego chicken costume run out there, it might be Pete Rose coming back.
Yep.
You
know? So, yeah. And what did you think of the no BS? No more BS.
It's bad.
You don't like it?
No. I love Big Show. Oh, well, yeah, maybe that's it. No more Big Show.
Yeah, that's what it was. What did you think it was?
I'm thinking bullshit.
Well, it's called a double entendre.
Yeah.
Oh, meanie.
Because everybody, anytime somebody leaves WWE, they gotta say, "Oh, I'm free. Oh,
yeah,
I escaped it. I escaped Shawshank."
Climb through a whole bunch of shit to get there. But no, that's the intention on it. Is that it's?
I'm so conditioned that when people leave WWE, they love to shit on WWE. Bad creative, you know.
But it's obviously a double entendre in the sense that it's no more BS.
It totally.
But no more Big Show.
Yeah,
he's just Paul White.
Yeah.
All right. That wasn't over with Meanie.
That's what I thought of it.
At Chris WD 2009 on Twitter writes, what were some of the worst experiences Josh and the Blue Meanie have had working the indies?
Ooh.
Meanie, we'll start with you.
Worst? Oh my God. Some of the worst ones were, if it's a local show, then it's like, it was bad. But when you put in the time to travel and go into an airport and wait in an airport and fly and all this, Man, just there's so many stories. Yeah, one time me and Stevie got booked on a show in California. That was at a wine and cigar banquet. And it was in a ballroom at a banquet, and people were in, tuxedos and black ties.
Wow.
And me and Stevie were supposed to wrestle Christopher Daniels and Bobby Bradley in the tag match, and the promoter comes out and goes, "Yeah, guys," or pre-show we're like, "Yeah, what do you want to do?" We're talking to each other, and the promoter comes over and goes, "I want a nice stiff match. Go in there and beat the shit." And we're looking at, he left. We're like, "Yeah, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about." But halfway through the show, they had to shut down the show halfway through because the people in these tuxedos and black tie and cummerbunds and dresses and all that stuff start throwing like ashtrays at the those marble glass thick ass that they start throwing shit at the ring at the wrestlers.
Jesus.
They're getting lit and this is bullshit wrestling and all this shit, and the promoter pulled the plug of the show halfway through. We still got paid.
Did you end up working
but,
or no?
No.
Okay.
But I still got paid. I mean, that was the cool part, but here's the here's the thing that sucked about that, right? We fly from Philly to California. They put us up in a hotel Marina Del Rey somewhere. Me and Stevie go for a walk, and we're walking down Venice Beach, and they're filming Pacific Blue, the old show for USA Network. So me and Stevie would purposely walk into a shot, like, and they're like, "Cut!" And we walk by, and then they started shooting again. We come back the other way. Cut.
That's amazing.
So we do the show. It was at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. And, they had Rob Van Dam on the show against Mustafa, and they had some decent matches.
What year was this?
95-ish.
Oh, wow.
Like maybe spring in 95-ish.
So
or something like that.
early ECW. Early.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, here's the fucking terrible part about, and this isn't really probably the worst story, but this just came to mind first. We had to get up at like 4 a.m, LA time, fly to Philly. We land in Philly at 5 o'clock. We have to drive to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania for ECW. So Van Dam hops in the car with us, and we drive up to Jim Thorpe. We get to Jim Thorpe in time to put on our gear and paint up, and we're basically putting on our wrist tape as we're going to the ring because he's wrestling Johnny Smith that night. And it was just like such a nightmare because, we fly cross country, get in the car, drive 2 hours to Northeast Pennsylvania, no sleep, to do a match, and then it's just like, oh my God. But then there's other shows where I've been booked in bumfuck Georgia, and the promoter puts you up in his daughter's bedroom, and it's like a little kiddie bedroom and stuff. Just like
I could have gone a different direction.
Yeah, just like, oh, didn't bother getting a hotel. You could stay at our house, and you go, where am I staying? Oh, in my daughter's room, and there's like Justin Bieber posters on the wall, and you're just like, oh, this is creepy.
So then you just pound one out real quick and go to bed, I guess, right? What else are you gonna do?
Well, Justin was looking at me, But,
so I had
so many different stories. It's just like,
I've had some crappy experiences on the indies, both as a wrestler and as an announcer. From a wrestler, I'd have to say it's kind of, I'd say we're tied in the. There was one time I worked for PWF, and was just kind of, I was so young. I was just out of training at the Wild Simone Training Center. I had a buddy of mine who had wrestled with me that never really had much training, and I thought I could carry him through. I could not. We had like a 6-minute match planned. It was one of the things where we sold a bunch of tickets to pack the house for them. And as I'm literally walking through I'd say curtain, but there was no curtain, They were like, hey, we're just going to do like 2.5 minutes. And I was not experienced enough. I wasn't experienced at all, but I was not experienced enough to know what to do, to get into the ring and with my opponent who had significantly less experience than me and try to take our spot for spot match that we had planned, and I felt like it was insulting because they knew that we sold the tickets to get on the show.
Right.
But I look back on it now, and I was paying my dues, and it was what it was.
Yeah.
A real issue, though, was working for Dino Santa. We had my group of the Teenage Wrestling Foundation. Dino, unbeknownst to us, called the State Athletic Commission on us so that we couldn't run a show. And while doing that, was devising his own little plan. Called me up because we had gone to his shows before and stuff and gotten to know him and all that. Calls me up, has this brilliant idea. He wants all of us to work for him. I heard your show got canceled. I can't believe that. You come work for us, all that stuff. We met with him at like a pizza place. And everyone knew his name, and it was like it was very weird. Like in the back
I think I know
room.
where you're talking about too.
What's that?
I think I know where you're talking about.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And so we plan out the show, and he wants it to be a TWF invasion. Of the WWWA. To quote Tony Schiavone, that'll put a lot of butts in seats. But that was the whole plan.
Invasion angle. Who would have thought of an invasion?
I know. But that was the plan. So our whole roster would come in, and we're supposed to have the match. And what's supposed to happen at the end of it was, one of our guys was going to win a title, was going to hand it off to me. I was going to then have never won the title. They created the WWWA US title specifically for this. And I was going to have it, and Dino Santa was going to want to take it off of me. And to me, look, WWWA is a tiny little nothing promotion, but to me as a young kid, I'm being hot-shotted to main event status here. And this, I'm whatever, I'm up for it. Me and all my friends, we're all up for this. End of the match, he wins the title. He's going to hand it to me, calls me into the ring. The entire locker room clears out and starts attacking all of us. Worked, though. That's where it gets weird. Attacking us with worked punches and kicks, okay? Gorilla press slams, things like that. This wasn't one of those things where the locker room cleared and they were taking advantage of us and beating us up. They all thought this is what's going on. So we get out of there. We're like, fuck is this? And we leave. We're in the back. We grab our stuff. Dino meets me around, come on into the bathroom. Come to the bathroom. And he is flying high, couldn't be happier. And he's like, this is great. Now, next month, you'll have your guys here and that guy. And I was like, whoa. Dude, what the fuck just happened out there? None of that was planned. We weren't supposed to, half the people that were there were we had friends that were managers, and getting work punches, but they didn't know what the hell was going on. It was horrible. This was his whole plan. And I was just no, we're never going to work with you again. And that was, and then after the fact is when I found out he was the one who got us shut down. So that was, I would say, as a wrestler, one of my worst indie experiences, other than just not getting paid, but that's pretty standard. As an announcer, it would be the not getting paid thing. The most recent one that happened, I talked about on the show before. That was, I don't want to go into who it was or whatever. But his name's Charlie, and he didn't. But the thing is, I was always on time, always did everything, and I had to track him down for 2 weeks as he continued to lie about payment and tried to get me to he would give me money from a credit card and I would give cash to people. It was not, and I'm no, man, I'm not doing this. That was some shady stuff. But the worst experience of it was just being lied to. Yeah. So that's that. But otherwise, I've always been very lucky that, I've always been in good locker rooms. Talent's always been great. Got to do a show, Go Big or Go Home, from the Go Pro Wrestling guys. And that was, I did the commentary with Joel Gertner for that. That was awesome. And I hope when the world comes back, they run another show. It was the final indie appearance for a lot of AEW people. And it was great. That was a great night. You talk about people who promise they're going to pay you at the end of the show and try to come to you at like intermission to pay you. And I'm like, dude, just pay me after the show. We're good. They were like, so, you know, if they told you something was going to happen, that was going to happen and more in a positive way. So I have nothing but positive things to talk about with the GoPro guys and Andy, who was running the thing there. So like, you know, so that don't, in a day now where news is coming out about promoters being horrible human beings, and there's a big difference between not paying somebody and being a pedophile. So I don't want to put them on the same, you know, category there, but you hear these things. It's also important to remember that there are some really good people who are trying to put these shows on because they love this business. And, you know, so I just want to say that, because while indie wrestling promoters are getting a bad rap, not all of them are bad. Some of them really mean well and take care of you, and respect the work and the time that you're putting in. But
I don't want to go too deep into the story that broke yesterday.
Yeah.
But I see people saying fuck wrestling, and I'm just like, saying fuck wrestling over one bad promoter.
Yeah. Name one business.
It is like saying, you know, fuck the circus because of, you know, John Wayne Gacy, you know?
Right. Yeah, but no, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Name one.
Yeah.
I would love to see one business, one industry, right? We're not talking even company, one industry,
right,
that has not had a horrible human being work there in that industry.
Right. Pro wrestling is a microcosm of society.
Yep.
And unfortunately, some bad seeds get in. But luckily, it was uncovered, and this person's been expelled.
Yes.
I don't even want to talk about it, shine light on it. But yeah, some news came out yesterday. You can Google it. You could Twitter search it, whatever. But yeah,
a lot of people have been talking about doing background checks now for both promoters, and then promoters want to do background checks on talent. I don't see why not.
Yeah,
it's fine. You know.
Yeah.
I don't have any skeletons in my closet, so you know.
Some people have graveyards.
Yeah. All right. James Sorensen, who will be doing a guest co-hosting with us later in the month,
What up,
writes,
buddy?
"Can Meanie and Josh ever win the tag team championships?" No. I don't see how. Meanie, what do you think?
It's very vague.
Yeah. Whose tag team championships? The Mind of the Meanie tag team championships created by Wildcat Belts? Hey, maybe that's something we could do.
Yeah.
But he also did put R.I.P. Jim Crockett Jr. And that is, I'm glad you brought that up, because I just want to send Meanie, you say whatever you'd like to say too, but I want to just send my condolences to David Crockett and the whole family there. I had the opportunity at StarCast to meet him and interview him and just chat with him behind the scenes for a little while. Could not have been a kinder person. Like, I don't know what he was like to work with back in the day or anything like that. But I will say he was so professional, and so, but to the point where he didn't even want me to be that professional. He wanted me to just be relaxed and just enjoy his company. And I'll never forget the fun times that we did, that I had with him and his brother. And it's a little inside joke. Meanie knows what I'm talking about. But I'm just very upset to hear of his passing, but so happy that he sat down and did the Conversations with Conrad over at Ad Free Shows, and that he was able to sit down for what I believe is like hours and hours and tell his side of everything. I think that's wonderful. It's something I can't wait to watch the rest of. And but yeah, my condolences, Meanie.
Jim Crockett and the Crockett family has been an asset to professional wrestling. They dominated the Mid-Atlantic area, Mid-Atlantic territory for the NWA. His father was a well-renowned promoter. He would promote professional wrestling, car races, the Harlem Globetrotters when they were in town. Everybody went through the Crockett's. So Jim Crockett Jr. learned well from his father, Jim Crockett Sr. And the Crockett's, along with, the NWA, created some of the most memorable wrestling to be seen. We started getting NWA Worldwide Wrestling here in Philadelphia around 84, 85, maybe 85-ish, on Channel 17 here in Philly at 1 o'clock, and it was like the best hour of wrestling. That, I'm diehard WWF, but watching the NWA was such a fresh breath of air, breath of fresh air. That's the word I'm looking for. But the Crockett's, man, geniuses, pioneers to the wrestling business, and ultimately they sold the business to WCW, but still they were revered enough to stay on as advisors, with David and Jackie Crockett. But Jim Crockett Jr., man, one of the best minds in the business, gave so many wrestlers opportunities, gave Dusty Rhodes an opportunity to become a booker, and so many different people and stuff like that. But the Crockett's, especially Jim Crockett Jr., I'm glad I got the chance to have a moment with him at StarCast in Baltimore. And here, the man is so accomplished in this business that, that night they went to have a sit-down interview with Jim Jr. and David Crockett. And Jimmy Crockett was just like, are people going to show up? He was like, are people going to show up? And then when, they had a packed house for the Crockett thing, which you can see now on FITE TV.
Yep.
It was they were taken aback by how interested people were into them.
If I could go back, I would have begged for the opportunity to be the one hosting that stage show with them. Not that I was necessarily the qualified one to do it, but man, that was one I was sitting there going, this would have been a really fun one to do.
I made it a point at that show. I was like, I have to get my photo with the Crockett's. And I got my photo with. I saw Jim. I was like, please, Mr. Crockett, can I get a photo? And I thanked him. I'm so when you get to meet somebody the quality and caliber of a Jim Crockett, you just say thank you.
Yes,
that's all you got to say.
See, my job there has always been so much fun because I don't ever have to ask anyone for a picture, because I can just take a screenshot of interviewing them.
Yes.
And that's, to me, like, I really, and I mean that not to be funny, it's an awesome thing because I don't have the awkwardness of having to ask for a picture, yet I get to have pictures with all of these incredible talents that, and minds for the business. And I get to have these for my own personal collection without having to feel that nervousness of asking them, hey, can I please have a picture with you? So it's, but yeah, very, our thoughts are with, are with the Crockett's, and he's a one
also,
of a kind.
Man, definitely one of a kind. Go on FITE TV and search out that, the interview segment with it. They did at
StarCast 4. StarCast
in Baltimore,
right? StarCast 4 in Baltimore.
So good.
Mark and Dryden at Mark Matsuo says, happy 50th, guys. Well, thank you very much. Yes. Was Meanie a cassette collector in his youth like I was? If so, what are his prized possessions? Mine are the original makeup versions of Creatures by Kiss. And this, he says, see the photo. I'll show you. if you can.
Yeah.
Gonna say Metallica here. Ride the Lightning. Funny story. A week before Metallica's Black album came out, I got the single of Sandman, Stone Cold Crazy. Went to a strip club, asked the DJ if he was a fan, let him hear it. Next thing I know, I got free table dances for the next few hours. Well, good for you. Meanie, were you a cassette collector?
Oh, of course. Growing up in the 80s. I don't know if I still have this one. I might still have it. I have the Michael P.S. Hayes album, Back on the Streets, which had, Bad Street USA on it. And I wish I had the foresight to get the album because they sold the album too.
Yeah.
I wish I had the vinyl, still to this day. But I passed off the cassette to Joey from the Swamp Candles, who worked at a replicating plant where they make CD. Like, he can record. He had a full studio, and he can make. So I was like, "Hey man, can you just put this on CD for me?" And he transferred everything. He transferred it over. And this is back in the day when it wasn't so available.
Right, right. And I'm sure him working at that plant, he's capable of getting it in like the best quality.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you're just connecting wires from your your boombox to
Yeah, when he made the BWO theme, he's like, "Hey, can you send me some audio clips from your matches?" I sent him a VHS of, different stuff, also on Raw and stuff like that. And he made like a BWO Extreme mix, which I have to find it somewhere.
Yeah, that would be fun to have on the show.
Yeah, you hear Vince going, "Oh, what a maneuver," because we're on Raw or whatever, and
that's awesome.
You hear Paul go, "The Blue World Order," and it breaks in with a BWO chant. It starts in with a slow BWO chant.
That's awesome.
I gotta find it.
Almost like the NWO had like the whatever all the like the different things Bischoff would say and the too sweet and the
too sweet. Yep. Yeah, stuff like that.
So Mark in Dryden had another question.
Yes.
What are some of Meanie and Josh's favorite long-term storylines? Love this question.
Long-term. Oh, man.
There's one that pops in my head immediately. Do you want to go first, though?
You go first.
Okay. The one that pops into my head immediately is Brett and Owen.
Yeah.
Because that culminated in one of my favorite moments ever, which was when the heel Heart Foundation was created with Brett and Owen and Bulldog, and then eventually Anvil and Brian Pillman. That to me, that storyline from start to finish was, it was over maybe 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. But it was so well done. I just loved it. Another one, if I had to say another storyline, another long-term storyline, I don't know if it was so much a storyline, but a long-term, but it seemed to go for a little while, and that would be Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels. I really enjoyed the Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels storyline that they had. Which had the ladder match and and all that stuff. So, but yeah, for me, it would have to be, for my age, for my time period, it would be, off the top of my head, would be Brett and Owen.
Yeah.
What about you, Meanie?
Hey, I was trying to dig deep because long-term storylines, or
I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more real quick.
Sure.
Raven and Tommy Dreamer.
That's probably the best one.
Raven and Tommy Dreamer. That might be
not because I was a part of it.
No, in fact, in spite of the fact that you were a part of it.
It really was.
No, it really. All kidding aside, it was awesome. But no, go ahead.
And Dreamer never won a match until the end. Which he still didn't want to win that match. But I'm thinking storyline or long time feud, because you look at Steamboat Flair that lasted over the course of decades.
Yeah.
You know, from the early Mid-Atlantic, then through Crockett, and then they had that trilogy of matches in the late 80s. And then I was fortunate enough to see the one at Spring Stampede in Chicago. You know, so they you know, you always knew, like, if Steamboat and Flair were going to have a match, it was going to be a classic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, you totally threw me off. I know, you know what? Another good one. You know, Rock and Austin.
Yeah, that's got to be up there. If you go back to them in the Intercontinental title days, and
you could also say Rock and Triple H.
Triple H as well.
They Rock and Triple H kind of, no pun intended, came up the ladder together. Through WWE. You know, people talk about Rock and Austin, but Rock and Triple H
were doing their thing while Austin was on top. So Rock and Triple H is definitely, that's a good one too.
The one point I was trying to get to, because you said something earlier, and it registered a thought about video packages.
It's my job.
And one of the best video packages to this day is Rock and Austin to the Limp Bizkit song "My Way."
Yes.
You know, just the anticipation of that match in that video package in the go home or whenever it was.
If you haven't seen it in a long time, or you've never seen it, check it out. I recently watched it, probably like a month or so. I don't know. Something must have been talked about on a podcast, or something led me to watch that video on YouTube. It is as good as it ever was. Like, my first thought was like, well, a video package from 20 years ago, maybe it's not quite as good as I remember it being. It was awesome. It was so damn good.
That video package, and when they did Kid Rock's Lonely Road to Faith or something like that, I cry every time I watch that video.
Dude,
especially at the end when they show the generational folks and stuff like that.
I took that music and I used it for a video montage for my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, which actually kind of worked. It kind of worked. Yeah. I'm sure some people were like, "This is a Kid Rock. That's an interesting choice." We were expecting something else, but it was. I thought it was it was just, that video.
No Sinatra. No, Frank. But yeah, dude, just that video montage with the footage, and then in the wind down, then the go home of the Lonely Road to Faith when they're showing you're seeing Rocky Johnson, and then they show The Rock. I'm just crying, man. I'd bawl like
if that didn't bring tears to your eyes as a wrestling fan when you watch that, you have no soul.
It would have brought tears to a statue.
Yep.
You know.
But I mean, God, PCO would be crying from both eyes, right? It's a miracle.
You just reminded me of when Al Snow was in Smoky Mountain. He was talking about Robert Gibson crying, saying he was so cockeyed when he cried, the tears ran down his back. I don't know why he did it. Speaking of eyes,
so this question
she's
comes.
Got Marty Feldman eyes. Go ahead.
Nice. Remix. This question comes from Mangle Strength at Mangle Strength on Twitter. Mangle Strength is my good friend, my best friend, Matt Mangle.
Great name.
Yes, great name. Had no choice but to spend some time in the ring because of his name. It was just like, I don't know if I really want to wrestle. Tough shit, man. Your name's Mangle.
Get in there, pussy.
Yeah. But this is a perfect time to plug over at youtube.com/mindofthemeanie. Next week will be episode 2 of Talking with Friends. That's me, Matt Mangle, my brother Fred, and Calvin Tan. All people who've been mentioned in this episode. It's all the characters that we talk about here.
It's a fun watch.
What's that?
It's a fun watch.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have a bunch of fun. It's just me talking with my friends. And talking with friends, the acronym's TWF, which check out the first episode. We kind of fill you in on all that. But it's a little, little behind the scenes of that. But Mangle asks, if we were to play rock, paper, scissors, but replace all the wrestlers, i.e. Typhoon, Earthquake, and whatever, who else would you pick? Instead of hand gestures, you would hit finishers. What would beat what? I thought that was kind of a fun one.
It is.
And my first thought was rock, paper, scissors. Well, rock is the Rock. Excuse me, I'm choking. Rock was the Rock, and scissors is Brutus Beefcake. But we can do whatever you want, Meanie.
And paper would be Meltzer. The dirt sheet. Rock, paper, scissors. So
And paper always wins, even if it doesn't. It'll just say it did.
Yeah. I would say Snook is the paper because he comes off the top rope with the cover. Yeah,
With the big splash. The big splash
with
covers.
the big splash. Yeah. Scissors would be. Oh my God, I don't want to go too deep on that. Like Antonina Rocca with the flying head scissors. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, or Arn Anderson.
Showing my age. What's that?
Arn Anderson.
With the spine buster.
Oh no, I was saying with the scissors.
Oh man, I heard I can't. Never mind.
Okay. All our listeners, thank you for that.
The scissors.
Yeah, I was gonna say a women's match. Stop it, guys. Would you?
Sounds
please?
like a Hubert game in here.
Oh. That is a horrible sound. That is a horrible sound.
Tracy, Mrs. Meanie, would punch me square in the jaw if she heard me doing that. She's got that sound thing.
Oh, what a terrible sound. Kind of like this one. Oh my God.
3, 2, 1. You hit yours. 3,
right.
3, 2, 1.
Horrible. It's horrible.
How old are we?
Man. Well, thank you for joining us on our final episode on FITE.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. They air GCW. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So,
and I love GCW. That's no slight.
no, it's just if you think farts are offensive, dear Lord. So we got Snooka's paper going off the top of the splash. We've got scissors. How about Ric Flair with the figure 4 leg lock?
Because they're also called the figure 4 leg scissors.
Yeah, so there we go. And then the Rock. The Rock's got to be the Rock.
Don Morocco. Don Morocco.
Don Morocco. Showing your age.
He's the original Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Don Morocco,
Don Morocco.
me, and
Don
then
Morocco's
Dwayne Johnson.
so good.
What?
Don Morocco was so good, man.
Yeah.
So good. I wish there was a really good Don Morocco T-shirt. I would love that.
I think you can just tie-dye a tank top.
Nah, I don't want tie-dye. Nah. Dude, he was so good with the promo.
Can I just ask, what's your heat with tie-dye? That was you really just got pretty hot there.
I just don't look good in it.
No?
I just don't look good at it. And one time I accidentally worked out in the gym in a Dude Love T-shirt and the tie-dye stained my skin. I couldn't get it off. I've seen me at TV in the shower trying to scrub it off. Man,
had Mattel made that shirt, there wouldn't have been any tie-dye on you at all. It would have just been a bunch of tribal shit. That was for our friends over at the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast who have been super cool promoting our figures. So shout out to our good buddies over there, Matt and Brian. So if I leave out their last name, it seems like we're even closer. So Mangle, thank you for that.
Good question.
Who wins? I guess regular rock, paper, scissors rules, right?
Yeah.
This is a fun one that comes to us from Jeffrey Mitchell. What was your favorite finisher to take? What was your least favorite finisher to take?
Oh, very good question. Favorite to take? Well, I'll start off with the least favorite. The least favorite was the fucking super bomb by the Pit Bulls, where Pitbull 2, the bald one, would sit. Pitbull Anthony would sit on the top rope. Gary would pick you up for like an atomic drop, but feed you up to Pitbull, and they, Anthony would stand up, and they would jump off the top rope and power bomb you, and it was just so unnerving just to be up, looking out in the crowd, and then all of a sudden you're flying backwards, like a reverse roller coaster ride. And it wasn't on them. It was just
a roller coaster ride, except at the end you slam your freaking head into the mat.
Dude, there's one super bomb they gave me that's on ECW Hardcore TV. Hopefully somebody could probably find the clip. I hit and perfectly timed. You see me hit my head on the canvas. I grab my head, sell, turn, all while somebody's hitting an air horn in the crowd. So 3 separate things, but they went together and they painted this scene, with the fit crowd popping here, and you see me going,
like this.
Time. Yeah, I'm sure that happened. Yeah, when they folded me up.
Man, yeah.
But favorite one to take.
Favorite.
Always loved selling a good super kick, man.
Yeah,
just something about this. In my younger days of being a bump machine, it's like if somebody threw a really nice super kick where I could just let my feet fly from underneath me and just bump out. Kind of like when Beulah announced that she was pregnant with Tommy's baby, and everybody fed for fucking Beulah hitting us with the frying pan. And I watched that bump, that snap bump I took. I was like, man, I could bump pretty good back in the day. When I was younger, now I'd be like, doing the Nikolai, put my hand down and roll to my ass and then slowly back. The baby tumbles.
You ever notice JBL? I don't know about earlier in his career, but later in his career, that man would bump without ever leaving his feet. Which, I don't know that necessarily softened the bump at all. Maybe it's just how frickin' tall he is. But I always noticed he would just straight up, his feet would be planted and he would bump and his feet never left the ground.
Well, some people are taught that way too.
Yeah.
Depends on who coaches you. But I loved letting my feet go whoop, like, slipping on the banana peel kind of bump.
My biggest issue that I used to have, my biggest issue that I would have in the beginning was my hang time. I got too much hang time.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes any sense, which a lot of it's just attacking the mat or whatever. But I would bump and it would just look like I was kind of floating a little bit, which seems like a really cool thing. But I was like, my focus was so much on going up that I would just stay up a little too long as opposed to my focus on snapping down. But
because the harder you hit the mat, the less it hurts. Which
says the guy who's like 4 times my size. But guess what? When you're my size, you hit the mat, it hurts no matter what. That mat is not meant for a small. That's why I look at these look at kids these days. But I would look at like a Sammy Guevara, right? And I would watch the stuff he would do, and I'd go back afterwards and talk to him, or not even Darby. Darby Allin's fucking insane, but I'd look at like this stuff, and and I would think to myself, like, I have a bigger frame, especially in my wrestling heydays, a bigger frame than Sammy Guevara or Darby Allin. And I'm remembering like how much that ring hurt. Now, I've never bumped in an AEW ring, so I can't speak to what it's like, but it always hurt so much more because the rings were, especially when it was like the WWE ring down in OVW, like, or any real good ring, they're meant so that they're not going to have that sound and that bounce every time you run the ropes. The translation to that is if you weigh $185, that shit's not going to move for you. If you're 240 or up, you're going to get a nice, a nice amount of give. Not a trampoline or jumping on a bed, but you're going to have a little bit more give. So I look at these guys now and they do the moves that these guys are doing now that I know are smaller than me. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that the bumps that they're taking. I would not have lasted a second. I wouldn't have, you talk about, they asked our experiences on the indies. And I don't mean this to like put myself down because I was a decent wrestler, but I wouldn't, maybe if I was getting trained today, but I would not have been able to hang with the talent today at my size at 5'8". Like I wouldn't have been able to hang with the other 5'8" guys today. They're athletes on a level that I just was not. And I'm just, right. So I think it's important to say, like, we'll always critique things and that's just human nature. But man, from a strictly athletic ability standpoint, these people
super athletes.
They're in, it's amazing. And
that's why
pull
I
a
think
muscle watching them,
I think that's with every generation too, because like I said, Lou Thez thought Harley Race did too much in his matches.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Harley Race thought guys after him did too much in the matches.
Yep.
And here we are looking at these guys going, man, how do they do that? I don't think I could hang.
No.
I think a lot of the hatred of past generations to the generation after them is just being envious of doing stuff,
Yeah, I mean,
I can't do that, so I'm going to hate it,
Yeah, like I said, I pull something watching them, and I don't mean in the Meltzer way when he's watching. But I guess, hey, we're both pulling something.
Yeah. Or maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe he doesn't even, maybe it's just, maybe the rocket takes off on its own without him even needing, Man, how's he going to do? God, this is coming out on Monday. I hope he's okay. Exploding barbed wire death match.
Yeah.
Something's exploding. Popcorn ceiling. Anyway.
Yeah.
Jonathan Chambers asked, do you think Dean Malenko could/should have been a world champion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could absolutely. He could have been. It wouldn't have been.
Yeah. It'd be believable. Dude, look. Dude, just the stuff he was doing, he was over as fuck, that time. Mm-hmm. When I think Dean Malenko, I think of him working Jericho, and he's under the hood.
Yeah. And
then he pulls the hood off, and people just went insane. Yeah. He was so over, and he was like the prototypical. He was such a throwback to like the Gotches and the Thezes and stuff like that.
Not that he was.
He could have been a world champion. Yeah.
Not that he wasn't successful, because he certainly was successful. But I feel like he was in the wrong 2 decades, so to speak.
Yeah.
Dean Malenko, the one you're talking about from WCW in that feud with Jericho, you take that guy and you put him in AEW today, and he is a star with his ability to work. Because, you always see him as that like shorter, stockier guy who's doing the mat stuff. But man, he's flipping this way, that way, not off the ropes, but he had no issue doing that.
He was so crisp.
Yeah. And if you brought him back 20 years when size didn't matter quite as much, that's a guy who would have, he would have been incredibly believable as a guy who could just tie you up in a pretzel. And spoiler, because he could.
Dude, his brother Joe was just as good too. Dude, I was gonna go to the Malenko school after watching Joe and Dean Malenko against the British Bulldogs in All Japan.
Yep.
And that match is probably one of my all-time favorites that I keep forgetting that I like. People are going, "Oh, what's your favorite match of all time?" And I'm like scrambling to think, and the Malenkos against the Bulldogs is fantastic.
Yeah. There were some, that's another one, like Dynamite Kid. But even Davey Boy, if you, and you saw some of it later on in his singles run, you would see they'd grab his arm, he'd flip to get out of it and do like a, like all around.
Little headstand, yeah.
What's that?
He'd do like a forward.
Yeah, like handspring type. But
Yeah.
that was a guy who just your first thought British Bulldog, you think massive muscle, stalling suplex, power slam. But these guys could move, man. They could move in a way. So I talk about the quote unquote kids these days, and I look at them.
Yeah.
But I'd be lying if I go back and go, Bulldog, yeah, that's shit I could do. Like they were so again, I think I was good. Which is easy to say once Al Snow told me that he lost all of the footage of me wrestling down there. I can now say I was amazing. I had some of the greatest matches in OVW history. Unfortunately, the videos they're just not there anymore. God, it was a sellout crowd. They chanted my name. But no, I wish wrestling fans sometimes would just, myself included, put on wrestling, either current stuff, old stuff, put some stuff on and just enjoy it. Just enjoy the physical wrestling of it because, God, these people are incredible athletes.
Absolutely.
Last question here comes from RJ Krasinski on our Patreon. What handful of ECW matches would you tell someone to watch that's new to that company? So somebody's never seen ECW. I've heard all this ECW stuff. Meanie, what are some matches I need to watch?
Of course, Malenko Guerrero, the trilogy, which I'll just count as one match, so I'm not cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the Pitbulls versus Raven and Stevie Richards in the double dog collar match. Probably one of the loudest pops in ECW arena history. Unbelievable. Double dog collar, Stevie bled buckets. This before I was in the company. I was just sitting in the crowd watching it, and then it resonates through on TV as well. That match, and this is in no particular order. I'm not saying which one's the best. The Mysterio Psychosis matches, fantastic. I'm trying to think, man, because there's so much good stuff. And I don't want to leave anybody out too. My brother, he left me out. So double dog collar, Raven, Stevie, Malenko Guerrero. Al Snow had a really great match with Chris Benoit. Maybe I'm being a little bit partial, but I think if Al had stayed there, who knows what would have happened. I know he's trying to balance between ECW and Smoky Mountain. He chose Smoky Mountain, but he could have had a ton of other classic matches. I mean, he did great stuff at Smoky Mountain too, but that match with Benoit was really good because Al was just coming along through the indies and just finally starting to make a name for himself. And then to watch people react to something I knew he could do, it's like you're in on a secret, but you're watching a crowd be brought in on a secret that he's that good. And the reactions he got during that match was fantastic. And then, probably pick Sabu Cactus Jack from Hamburg, Pennsylvania. It's one of those matches. Again, I wasn't in the company yet, but I was and I think I'm in the footage if you watch it. I had my head buzzed at that time. Sabu versus Cactus Jack, Hamburg, Pennsylvania. It was a TV match, and they took a beer bottle out of the trash, and Sabu's trying to break it over Cactus's head, and it would not break.
Oh, man.
So Sabu hits him, and you hear thunk, and you hear the crowd go, oh. And he says, fuck it. Goes for it again. Thunk. Crowd, oh. It's just like, I don't know how many shots he gave Cactus in this match, but it's just like, and then the video does no justice. I think the match is on one of the Cactus DVDs in WWF.
Yeah.
With the one poster, greatest hits or something like that. But Cactus Jack, Sabu, Hamburg. Because I was going to say pick any cactus, but that one in general stands out to me because, in ECW, in any other promotion, they probably would have cut that spot out.
Right.
The bottle didn't break. Oh shit, they fucked up. Blah 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 blah. No, that was like a real that was a real moment. Not everything. I love, and this is what I love about Sabu too. Sometimes he would purposely botch a spot on purpose because his theory was, shit. Every time Babe Ruth didn't hit a home run every time he went up to fucking bat. Right. Every now and then he would strike out. Right. In the real world, some things aren't supposed to be perfect or land correctly. Like he would set up a triple jump moonsault, and he would, jump off the chair onto the top rope, and he would purposely act like he lost his balance, get down, yell at the chair, and then go and do it, and then hit it right the second time.
Yeah.
Or he would go to hit the second time, and the person would recover and hit him because it made sense.
Right.
But in that moment, it just showed like how real. He hit him with that fucking bottle. Thunk, oh, and you just hear the crowd. Oh, But yeah, if you guys search that match out.
Well, that's it for Ask Meanie Anything. Some great questions. We appreciate that. If you would like to ask Meanie, you use the hashtag Ask Meanie and throw it in at any time throughout the week. You don't have to wait for us to put out the Ask Meanie post because we will, as long as you use that hashtag, we'll be able to find it and check for the past week. Yeah, that was great. You know what else is great? Some of our shirts, some of our merchandise. Yes. We have some awesome merchandise over at ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie. Take a look at it right now. Get your Mind of the Meanie shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie. We have the Mind of the Meanie logo tee, the Mind of the Meanie badge, Meanie Toons, Meanie Burger, 3 seltzers deep, Meanie Gas, Wreck Every Bathroom and Leave, Meanie Screwing Up the YMCA, Alternative Commentary, Podcast Faces, and so much more. Go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie. Awesome t-shirts, all available, ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie. Thank you so much to the great Andy Slichter for all the things that he's put out there. One graphic that he's made is here to help us promote this new event that we just announced last night during Alternative Commentary on FITE. Well, we will be back, but not for Alternative Commentary for WrestleMania. No, we are going to be doing a 2-night extravaganza. That's right.
Yes.
It is going to be the Mind of the Meanies Meanie Mania post-show extravaganza, 2 nights immediately following WrestleMania Night 1 and WrestleMania Night 2. Meanie and I will be on FITE, on Facebook, and on YouTube. A little simulcast, baby. We're going to be doing that so that we can give you all of our thoughts and all of our opinions about what we just witnessed during Night 1 and then Night 2 of WrestleMania. It's Meanie Mania, baby. Meanie, what are you thinking about that?
I'm super excited about this. Normally, you sit back and watch a show. Well, now you can see, come on, FITE TV or all our platforms and see what we thought about it. And we'll give you instant feedback, instant recap, and of all those nights partakers, so to speak. So, yeah, I'm very excited that we're doing this. It's a new venture, a new twist on a old favorite that we were doing before with Alternative Commentary. But now we're just going to give you our feedback of the show live and in living color.
Yeah, I am super excited about this. I can't wait to watch 14 hours of WrestleMania and then talk about it that's my goal, to go as long talking about it as the show. That is not true. That is not true.
Pack a lunch.
Yeah, so we will tell you exactly when we're coming on the air as soon as we have some sort of idea of when WrestleMania is going off the air, because we don't really know. So pretty much we're going to have a live feed, and the people at FITE are going to be sitting there waiting for us to go, yeah, Mania's over, and then we'll jump on. But again, it's free. It's free on FITE. It's free at youtube.com/Mind of the Meanie, and it's free over at facebook.com/Mind of the Meanie. And who knows, we might even have other platforms that we can throw it out there on too. I don't know if we can. We'll throw it on maybe Twitter. We'll even put it out. I don't know. I literally don't know. So I'm just saying, it's popping into my head now. But we'll see, because we want you to be able to find it on whatever platform you enjoy your watching and listening. And that's it. That's all I've got. Meanie.
Soft out.
50 episodes, man. As we're
so cool.
Taking it home here.
This is so cool, man. Thank you to the Pod Squad. Again, without you, this just be two guys talking to ourselves, and like I said, we could just do that on the phone. So thank you for your support. Thank you for FITE for allowing us on your airwaves and bringing us a visual medium or extra large. It doesn't matter. But no, thank you. This is so humbling. Just to think 50 episodes ago, this was just a thought, a couple months before it was a thought and then became a reality. Through that reality, we've gotten action figures. We do, that was extreme on, ad-free shows. We're doing so many different cool things thanks to this podcast. Yep. As just announced this week by the good folks at Dark Side of the Ring, I will be on the upcoming Dark Side of the Ring special series. They're doing a series of 90-minute episodes, recapping certain episodes, and they brought me on to talk about the Owen Hart episode, which I was as part of the the Owen Hart unfortunate accident and stuff like that. I hate talking about it, but the guys from Dark Side of the Ring were kind enough to bring me on and share my experience, which I had talked about here on Mind of the Meanie, right around the anniversary. I'm trying not to get choked up again. But yeah, so many cool things have come from this podcast, and most importantly, thank you, Josh, for being the brawn behind the brains.
I guess that's, yeah. I'm just happy to be the tour guide here. And not just happy, I'm over the moon happy. This is the most fun I've ever had in my entire stay in the wrestling business. We've mentioned before, we've got our figures by Cella Toys coming out. We've got some more fun things happening. All this stuff that I just never, 50 weeks ago, never in a million years could have imagined would happen. And I'm grateful to you, Meanie, and to the Pod Squad. Anybody who has ever tried this out, and especially anyone who's ever spread the word. We really appreciate that, because our growth on this show is because of you. It's not, Meanie and I can yell out into the void, jump, listen to our show, watch our show. But of course we're going to tell you it's good, but it's all of you who've gone on and have left reviews and have, given us 5 stars across the board. That's been awesome. But all of you who have just continued to tune in and support, be it through patreon.com/mindofthemeanie, subscribing to to our podcast or our YouTube, we just really appreciate it. And so thank you, Meanie. Thank you, everybody. And make sure to follow us on social media. We are at Mind of the Meanie across all platforms. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter at Mind of the Meanie. Follow us as individuals as well. I'm at So Says Shernoff, and he is at Blue Meanie BWO. We are at Mind of the Meanie. Remember, I just said that a minute ago. But also, make sure you go to youtube.com/Mind of the Meanie. Hit like, hit subscribe, and hit that little bell too. That's going to really help you out knowing when a new episode or a new Talking with Friends or Mrs. Meanie Run-In or something like that is on there. We've got even more fun things planned for you. Thank you to Andrew for being from Wildcat Belts, for taking the time to be on this show and help us celebrate with an awesome, fun interview. Thank you, everybody, and make sure to tune in every morning wherever you get your podcast, and every evening on FITE every Monday when we take another trip into the mind of the Meanie.
Blue World Order. of MLW Radio never stops.